Oh, all right. Sorry, guys. Took me a second. Remember how to do this. 1 second. Let me get my water. So this is going to be a different kind of stream. As you can see, I got my light on, and the reason being is because I'm going to have to be reading an actual physical book, and my eyesight's not that good to read, in the normal dark that I'm in, So I'm currently reading this book right now, Daniel Unplugged, and it's written by Dr. Samuel Frost, who I will be debating on premillennial versus amillennialism. I also ordered his other published book about preterism, and I'm just trying to read it to get, an idea about him, that type of stuff. In addition to watching his debates, in addition to doing mock stuff on ChatGPT, other things like that, just different ways I'm preparing. I also have a cluster of debates that happen around that same time. So, I got to get ahead of all that. I probably would do a little bit, do some more of this until I have to start getting ready for church tonight. But, so I got the page 120, which I think is still it's on Daniel chapter 6. I got the page 120, reading out loud, doing my rapping reading with my wife. But my wife had to go to sleep. So now I'm going to do the same thing here with y'all. So don't expect a lot of engagement. Hey, Howdy. He went through full pret and had really been experienced. I think he swung too far the other way because of it. Oh, okay. That makes sense. All right. So I'm going to do my rap reading from this. And I have J. Paul Tanner, who is a free gracer, but probably one of the best Daniel commentaries in existence there is, even in academia. So I may be interacting with that. But like I said, thankfully the debate's not on Daniel, the 70 week or anything like that, but it could come up. All right, so let's see. All right, so let's start with his translation. This is on page 121. Thereupon this Daniel was distinguished above the overseers of the administrators, all before who were excellent spirit in him was. He kind of got some Yoda talk going on here. And the king planned to cause him to rise over all the dominion. The plan was a thought of the king voiced to the administrators and no doubt reflected the age of Daniel and his experience. Daniel would have been given power to that of the co-regent. The king sought for the opinion concerning the matter. It is of note too, in keeping with my thesis, that the image dream of chapter 2 foresaw the people who would cause to rise and rise forever. Here Daniel was son of Israel's cause to rise over the dominion. However, how God's people rule and how the king of the earth rule are not the same in terms of their nature. That's the mark of the beginning of the rule of the people of God after the image dominions have been smashed appears to be quite plain. Now we got another translation. Thereupon the overseers and administrators were seeking an issue to find concerning Daniel about the dominion, that is any corrupting issue. They were not able to find any before him who was trustworthy, nor any negligence nor corrupting thing that were found over him. Thereupon those stronger than men, saying that we cannot find concerning this Daniel any issue except to find against the law of his God. So this is, of course, leading into about to be the Daniel of the Lion's Den thing. The similarity here in 3.8, see comment, is to be noted also. The phrase later in 624, chewed to pieces, which is translated as accused, and not all of the administrators were involved in this plot. Some render stronger men as certain men, specific ones, which does reflect the meaning great men, distinguished from the rest. All of them gathered and taken by the charge and the was more or less vetting Daniel since he was being possibly nominated to a higher office. When it seemed that there was no record of wrongdoing, certain men got together to find a way to entangle Daniel. If he is to be nominated to even higher office, he to be made to look bad for the job that they knew of the law of God's Daniel meant that Daniel knew of the law as well, for he would have been raised in accordance with the stipulation of parents to train up the child in the law, Deuteronomy 6. It is easily recognized that the story here is parallel with the story of the three friends of Daniel in chapter 3. They are absent here, yet we know that Daniel Belshazzar remained in Babel. The one thing that could dig up to speak would be his religious convictions, where he could ran counter to the culture. The Persian kings were no doubt just as religious as their Babylonian predecessors and maintained the pantheon of gods, which included Marduk and Nabu. Cyrus would credit Marduk for his reception of Babel. They were also of the religion of Zoroastrianism. Cyrus was magician. Magan, which allowed them to absorb with tolerance of the religious faith. The text makes it clear that Daniel was not in any wrong whatsoever, not even in his religious practice. He states this in 622, he has done the king no harm. Thus, we are to think of the conspiracy of Daniel as one that is entirely fabricated, attempted to place him in the act of rebellion to the crown. Since these were men appointed by Cyrus, they were trusted as well. Their validation would have been checked. In the case of the three Jews in chapter 3, there were cases of possible disobedience to the command. Here, however, it does not appear to be the case. Translation. Thereupon these overseers and administrators together thronged over the king, saying to him, Darius the king lived to the ages, have counselled together overseers of the dominion, the prefects, administrators, and counselors, and the governors to establish a state for the king, to make a strong decree that any who have petitions a petition for any god or man for the next 30 days, except from you, the king, he will be thrown into a pit of the lions. At this time that the king established a decree and signed a writing which none can change according to Median and Persian law. What happened is that the council all together to vet Daniel. There was no wrong to be found with the frustrated few of them got together to hatch a plan that would entangle the old man, get rid of him forever, foul Jew that he is, calling again the council, which would have included Daniel, to draw up a decree in honor of the king. No petition could be made to anyone's God or to anyone in authority unless first made to the king for the next 30 days. The penalty is death by the king's lions. Upon these few men entered before the king with their petition to sign. It may seem to be an odd request, however, the king had just been installed over Babylon. This is probably a commemoration edict. It was not permanent law, 30 days of the first month to celebrate his enthronement. It's not a ban on worship or praise to the gods. The word of man is added, noting that the authority of the new king is to be honored for 30 days. No petition to be sought apart from the king's blessing. Thus, from all appearances, the edict is couched in terms that would be flattering and honoring to the king, causing no unrest among the inhabitants before his God. Let's see. Have to be careful. Pages stick together. The term for petition is found in Daniel 4:36, where Nebuchadnezzar restored with his counselors and strong men petitioned him again. Also, Daniel petitioned Nebuchadnezzar 2:16 and God 2:23. It is the form of prayer in terms of asking for a specific request from God or man. Here, the temporary ban, so to speak, is not against worship and praise. The priest of Marduk would loudly rebel, but against asking for specific needs to be granted by something in authority, whether God or man other than the king. This was not a ban specifically against Daniel, for it would apply to any person that petitioned their God or any man in the authority to grant what was being asked for. Thus, the deity was a foible honor to the king, that he alone for 30 days be shown respect by his newly acquired people as such. And apparently thinking Daniel was one of the all who agreed to such a decree, the king assents. A word must be said about the pit of lions. Lions, we know, were kept by the Babylonians for a variety of reasons and such. They had to be pinned up somewhere. We have some references to such a thing in the cuneiform text, but not so much as we find here. Throwing the criminal in the fire was nothing new, but throwing them to the lions does not appear to be a common form of punishment. The term pit is a hollowed out area, either from the earth or a cavern. It was not a core or a cage nor a stable. The punishment is severe, perhaps extreme, but in light of the petition to the king and his honor, who would refuse? What kind of person could not simply cease from requesting from those in authority of their gods unless the first go to the king? Only a seditious person, a person so bent to dishonor to the king of the Medes and the Persians, in light of the request, would be brought to the king for his approval, so as to let him get to know his people. The king is not being asked to be worshipped as a god. As already mentioned, Daniel petitioned Nebuchadnezzar 2:16. The lions would have been belonged to the previous king Belshazzar, and the pit was already there near the king's palace. Either face the lion king Ahasuerus or Persia and show respect, or face the king's lions. Thus, association with the new king and the lions instead of the head and stone in the furnace seem appropriate. The decree is meant for the local district and could not possibly apply to the whole territory of the Medes and Persians, and it was temporary. How bad it could it be? No one could dare risk such a thing. In translation, all before this, the king Darius signed the writing and the decree, and Daniel with such knew what was good was signed. The writing went to his house, opened windows concerning in his upper room, facing Jerusalem. And 3 set times of the day he knelt upon his knees, and he bowed and gave thanks before his God, as always he did before this man. Darius is being deceived by these few men, and that he does not know what is written, that it was written to get Daniel. He had known he would have been furious. He had been manipulated by conspiracy. Daniel knew that the edict meant that he had no intention of violating. We know this from 6:22. The 2 words here for the form of prayers, bowed and gave thanks, are not petitions. Daniel knelt and bowed while on his knees and gave thanks. Darius I issues an edict that requires the bowing before the God in prayer for the king of his sons, Ezra 6:10, Aramaic. If anyone violated this house will be burned, Ezra 6:11 and 12. The second word simply means praise in the form we find it here, Aramaic, but means confess in Daniel 9:4, Hebrew. Daniel was simply praising, confessing while kneeling and bowing before the God. He is violating no decree, and if there is such a demand as strong as the petition required, he would have simply let the king know such. Daniel prays in the morning, Lord, evening, vespers, and before bed, Kopline. This is found in the Psalms as well. Psalms 55:17. Come, let us bow down and kneel before the knee, before the Lord. I'll make it 95:6. The Daniel was 70 in mind in the first year of Cyrus is found in Jeremiah 50 verse 3. After Babylon falls to a nation from the north, Medes and Persians, the people of Israel and the people of Judah together will go in tears and seek the Lord, the God. They will ask the way, desiring to turn their faces toward it. Babylon was to be made a complete desert wasteland according to the word of the Lord. The threats against it uttered to Jeremiah and Isaiah are that of annihilation. However, we may find intercession here. Daniel had already interceded for the wicked counselors that were threatened with death by the Nebuchadnezzar. Since God gave them the interpretation of the king's dreams, their lives were spared. 70 years for Babylon had passed, and Israel has been in Babylon for several decades as well. A new king has come, and Jerusalem once again comes into the picture as it's been done throughout these stories. Then Daniel does, in fact, petition the king to let the people return to Jerusalem, may be implied in the story as we shall see. Translation. Thereupon these great men thronged together, and they found Daniel seeking and showing favor before his God. Here we find another word already used in 424 to show favor. Daniel's petition is showing favor to his God. The word petition is used here and is the one specifically mentioned in the edict. However, these men were not huddled outside of his house. Wrongly interpret this. He is not requesting from God anything, and this is the nature of the edict. The edict is stated was not a total ban of prayer for 30 days. As this would have angered every soul in the dominion. Daniel was simply worshiping his God, and there was no crime against that. These men, however, had what they want. They have found corruption by seeking him bowed down as he was. From this issue, the false charge to the king, which, as we shall see, is entirely fabricated. To make a petition to the Lord, Daniel would have bowed down and asked for such. Thus, we are not told that they heard Daniel, but merely that they found Daniel in the form of one petitioning his God. They assumed that he was breaking the command. Translation. Thereupon they came near and saying before the king concerning the edict of the king, did you not sign an edict that any man who petitioned from any god or the man for 30 days except from you, the king is to be thrown into a pit of the lions? The king answered and said, the word is truthful according to the Median Persian law, it cannot pass away. Thereupon they replied and saying that the king said, Daniel, who from the sons of exile Wajida said over you, the king, a command, and over the edict which you signed 3 times in the day he petitions it. Thus when the king heard the word, he was greatly wroth over himself. Now concerning Darnell, he set his heart to deliver him, and was at the sun going down, he was struggling to rescue him. These conspirators are operating within the edict in that they are going before the king with the petition against Daniel. They first get the king to commit to his own signature. That's what I said. Then they present the case. Clever. The wording reminds us of chapter 3, where a command is said over Nebuchadnezzar. King cannot go back on his own word uttered so recently as this one. He would look like a fool when trusting the rule will be diminished. He must show power. However, Cyrus was undoubtedly spoken to Daniel and heard his abilities and knows his tenure. He knows also that according to the vetting of his nomination to a higher officer, there is no corruption or records of any scandal. We could also be liberty to say that the king knew of the miraculous powers Daniel's God displayed through him. Cyrus also set his heart on Daniel with the same expression we find in 1:8 concerning Daniel himself. himself. Cyrus is caught between a rock and a hard place. The sun, which is the meaning of his name, has gone down. The command which they charged Daniel was set in over the king as the administrators are to report to the king. 6:3. Thus, from the text, we see that they were issuing a charge that would have brought him to the king and his political power. Daniel has not just some exiled Jew. He would be considered for a top office. Surely such a scandal, if word ever got out, the king showed him favor over against his edict, would spell disaster in the press. Loyalty to the dominion, loyalty to the king's word must be maintained in order to keep peace. Like it or not, the king would abide by the ruling. That he did not like it at all was made known. Was there some way to get around what the many witnesses here saw and claimed that they heard? They would pit the king against the very ones he just appointed. If he showed favor to Daniel, he is screwed. If he showed favor to the administration, if you gathered here the conspirators, Daniel is screwed. Not sure you want to put the word screwed in a commentary. These thoughts must have kept him up all night. The one who has to pay the price rather than the many, God may have mercy. Translation. Thereupon these great men thrown together with the king, saying to the king, let the king know that according to Medo and Persian law, that no edict or statute which a king has established can be changed. The king spoke, and they brought in Daniel and threw him toward the pit of the lions. The king replied and said to Daniel, your God, of which you are reverend one to him, and continue one, bid their deliver you. After some time in the day to sunset, these men left the king alone. However, at sunset, they returned. This is what the state, the king knows it. He cannot utter a law, sign an edict, or establish a statute only to reverse it in the very next day. Caught up in the celebration of this new dominion, the king has signed an edict that regardless of how frivolous it was, it's law, even for 30 days. If the king says no new taxes and then says we are going to impose new taxes, he has just marked the end of his trustworthiness. Read my lips. Yeah, George Bush. There's no trial here. Daniel was not allowed to give an answer in defense. He is not asked for one until chapter 3. Unlike chapter 3, there's a strong suggestion in the text that the king has allowed the court to rule in the favor of the accusers, for he cannot withstand a scandal at this point without looking incompetent. Rather, knowing Daniel, he hopes that his God will deliver him. Bithderer, which may be his name, he calls Daniel. Daniel is called the continual one, steadfast and sure, devoted and absolute, a great man. More on the lion's pit, he is cast or thrown towards it, and the king is present. He speaks to him after he's placed in the pit, not lowered but thrown, as in the chapter 3, where the 3 Jews are thrown into the fire. The pit apparently would have some door, a cover, and it's probably a cavern with 2 or 3 floors hewn out. The word here for pit means hewn out. The lions were not kept in terms of a zoo. They were not probably kept for long, either being used for training warriors to fight. We may imagine that as far as nutrition went, they were not fed a regular healthy diet. There were not domesticated cats used some routine. There was an entrance to the cavern or pit, which a net could be placed over to capture them. One could hear them, but not see them. It is sundown. It's pitch black in the hole. Translation. One stone was brought and set above the mouth of the pit, and the king sealed it with the signet ring of the noblemen, so that the matter was not changed with Daniel. Then the king returned to his palace. The picture one can imagine here is that the guards hurled Daniel into a cavern pit of sorts. They find a rock to mark the sentence of the king. He has a ring, and the ring of his nobles and marks, dripping wax on it, the sealing that the king is alone here. He has done all he can within the power in order to maintain his statue in the quagmire of political intrigue. May your God deliver you, Daniel. This is my hope and my prayer. If Daniel was martyred, the sentence to step to the bottom of the floor of the darkness. The king cannot tolerate hearing the screams of the man being martyred, so it departs to his palace. But he is himself torn apart at the thought, as far as the figures that Daniel's God would deliver him. If that is the case, the charge against him would be dropped, for the gods had not stirred up the lion to eat him. This then would allow full prosecution against the so-called great men appointed as the manipulators of the king. Death would be the only proper punishment. Eye for an eye, sentence for a sentence. The king would be entirely cleared. Hey Nathan, why not? Stone is mentioned here in 234, 45, and 54 and 23. The stone that promised to rise and grow God's people with the 70 years. It shows that the 54, 23 that there's brought the place over Daniel to the end of Babylon's rule may signify that although God's people rule through obedience to their God and their laws, it often turns out as a persecution. God's people rule through tribulation. Translation. And he passed the night fasting. Unusual company made upon retiring from sleep, upon not brought up before him, and this sleep fled on account of it. From all before, although we know Daniel was beloved of many, but he was an old man and his reputation was excellent. The king is clearly torn from for he too had gained much respect for Daniel, that he planned on giving him a very high office over the district of Babylon. It is to be remembered here that no one outside the council knows what transpired in these few days. The edict was freshly drafted and adopted. The charge against Daniel was immediately brought before the king. There was no public information being given here other than the edict. Daniel was not arrested, but simply brought in and sentenced. Word would, however, spread concerning his death. The charge would be sedition. The king was faced with having several witnesses they appointed as being liars, and Daniel was the one who simply disobeyed the king, which he could not have either. It was difficult to understand how this man Daniel would have done such a thing had he done it. Yet he cannot quite believe that the 2 overseers and a few administrators he freshly appointed could hatch such a conspiracy. It would be a direct violation of the king's plan to have Daniel appointed. Hold on, I got messages coming in on my phone. Oh, okay. Daniel appointed. Such a scandal could not rock the new dominion. Either Daniel was guilty and deserving of the administrators, and 2 overseers were bearing false witness, to which upon discovery they will be held accountable. They were, as far as the credentials were concerned, deserving of their offices. However, the characters were being revealed, and their episode would only be rightfully punished. Either way, the king could not trust such men. If Daniel was in direct violation, or if these men were simply false witnesses, only the morning would tell. Translation. Then the king arose in the early morning at his light. Then he hastily rushed to the pit of the lion. He went. Then he came nearer to the pit to Daniel. In a sad voice he cried. He replied, and he said to Daniel, Daniel, servant of the living God, your God, who was reverent to him, the continual one, Bithadera. Was he able to deliver you from the lions? And Daniel, what the king spoke, the king lived to the ages. My God sent the angel when he shut the mouth of the lions, that they did not destroy me. All before that which was before me found pure to me, and also before you, the king, I did no crime. The king rose as the sun roses, rushes alone to see if he's all right. Daniel, God is my judge, is delivered. He's pure and he does not hesitate to state his case. I committed no crime against your edict. This means one thing and one thing only. The king has been manipulated. The king has been tricked, lied to. His own personal choice for Daniel to be elevated to a higher office was attempted by these men to be thwarted. Traitors, cowards, scoundrels, the worst of the worst. The God of Daniel rescued him from an impossible situation. Daniel must be who he says he is. Translation. Then the king was exceedingly happy over him. Thus he ordered that Daniel be taken up out of the pit, and Daniel was taken up out of the pit, and there was no injury found on him, because he trusted in his God. The guards had showed up, and the king ordered to him to go in and take Daniel out of the pit, and where he did, this lets us know that he was in the cavern, descended to the ground with the steps leading to the floor. The king did not need to remove the rock which was set above the entrance mouth. If the descent was fashioned in the likeness of a ladder fastened to the wall, the lions would not have been able to get out of their own. Thus Daniel was thrown in, but helped out by the guards. The lion themselves could be retrieved by hooks and nooses when needed. Translation. And the king commanded that they were brought, these great men who chewed to pieces of Daniel, to the pit of the lions. They were thrown, they, their sons, and their wives. They did not come to the lowest part of the pit. The lions powered into them, and all the bones were broken to pieces. This adds a little more detail to the pit, for if a ladder reached down to the descendant stair, this will further reach the floor. The lions could get to the staircase and even to the ladder. They couldn't climb the ladder, however. It must have been a horrible thing to witness and hear the cries of the families. The treachery, however, was on their own heads, simply taking the lives of men who because the issue of revenge, sparing a Jew over a Chaldean. Thus the whole lot is thrown in with Nebuchadnezzar. He did not exact revenge on those who chewed the pieces. No open panel. How can you be open panel when I'm reading a book? Of the 3:8, their charge was actually a crime. They were not going to bow on the image, period. Daniel, however, was committed no crime. His prayer to God in no way violated the edict. They were false accusers. Daniel could have easily complied with such an edict for 30 days and just remained devout and observant in the regimented prayer life which he had prepared to do. This brings us to the issue. The king here, Cyrus Darius, the first year of the Medes and Persians, at the end of the 70 years, decree for Babylon meant that Jeremiah's prophecy must come to pass. The people of Judah must be restored to the land. The stone in the dream dream image was come since the image of Babylon has been shattered to pieces, is depicted here with the Chaldeans' bones being shattered. I cannot help to wonder that the one stone set over the mouth of the pit of the lions is not in a subtle way hidden at the dream of Nebuchadnezzar. This is the dominion which was prophesied. God would set up another dominion of his people, and it would never again be uprooted. The decree of the king cannot be changed unless God changes it. Translation. Thereupon Darius the king wrote to all the people of the nations into the language which dwell upon the land, greatly prosper from where we decree is set that thee in the realms of my domain, there to tremble and fear before the God of David, for he is the living God, and he endures to the ages, and his dominion is never destroyed, his dominion never ends. He delivers and rescues and makes signs and wonders in heavens and land, and he's delivered Daniel from the hand of the lions, and this Daniel prospered in the dominion of Darius, that is in the dominion of Cyrus the Persian. I believe that shortly after this event, Cyrus issued the decree we find in Ezra 1:1 and elsewhere. It is the capstone of the set of material that makes up Daniel 1 and 6, and ends with the very wording of the dream image of chapter 2. The stone taken from the mountain, as we discussed there, is the remnant of Israel that comes out of Babylon. Now that the Babylon dominion is in it, Cyrus proclaims that Daniel's God is a living God. We may not see here, however, conversion. The phrase, his dominion would never be destroyed, is virtually word for word in 2:4. His dominion never ends is also found there. Cyrus, Darius, the Vav explicative is used in my translation, indicating that Darius and Cyrus are the same. Then his first year marks a transition with the 70 years of Babylon and the decades of Judah's exile. Daniel is delivered from the lion's hand, and so are his people. This is the resurrection motif here is there in the chapter 3. 2, God has shown power over the animals. Chapter 6, over the nations. Chapter 5, over the mind of the king. Chapter 4, over the elements of the fire in the body. Chapter 3, and over the destiny of Babylon. Chapter 2, his dominion is an everlasting dominion. Then he sits on the throne, judging the nations, orchestrating his dominion over every facet of life to bring about whatsoever he pleases. And with the end of the story, God has now brought Cyrus, just as he predicted. He commenced some other necessity of returning these people to the homeland through Daniel. Daniel and his 3 brothers are kings and rulers who reign with God in the dominion as they maintain their faith, what is an unseen, what is hoped for and believed, the faith in what is truly seen. And the Nebuchadnezzar came to confess what Cyrus has now witnessed for himself is that God's dominion is not of this world. It does not change nor pass away. It is not subject to the conspiracies of men, the threats of kings, or the punishment of rulers. It has a command from above. Edict of its own, a decree from on high. God rules among the nations, that there is no God other like him. We already have been given a peek into the visible dominion God communicates with his people. He does so through revelation and understanding that it's not all rooted in what is seen. It is a cognitive faith, a faith that can rightly be called knowledge in the truest sense of the word, but its facts are not gained through the empirical, but the non-empirical. Occasionally, God shows up in a mighty way, and angels watchers attend to the every order. We are getting ready to peer even further into the visible dominion of God. Although there are similarities with the creative order, there are radical differences. It is a strange word among almost forbidden. Daniel progressively unfolds his vision in the next chapter. What begins as a dream of king concerning dominion unfolded in a display of power over fire, so that not even bodies are burned, none of their hair singed, and watches and angels. God ordered decrees, sentences, and punishment. These angels carried them out, such as the invisible dominion. Who could possibly resist whatever the God desires to be accomplished? It appears that all power belongs to him, and he gives his power even to his own. 2:23. God makes alive and he slays. He changes the time and the seasons. He alters dominion, setting them up and pulling them down. The dominions do not change. There is hope here. God's dominion will set up another dominion, the dominion that starts off as a rock and becomes a displacing mountain until it's the only mountain left on the land. This dominion is a people like Daniel, Azariah, Hananiah, and Mishael. They themselves are a dominion of people, small in number, and the dominion to be established in them on the land that will never be uprooted, never destroyed, precisely because they're participants in the visible dominion, a dominion that transcends the elements and renders them of no effect. The dominion is not of the world either. It comes from above and derived from the very own dominion, a dominion with the dominion. That Daniel has demonstrated faith is alive apart from the rituals of the temple. He so desires from the city of Jerusalem, so he wants to see restored. The power is found upon the heart. It comes through the heart, a heart change. When one has changed heart, one has direct access to God, his throne, his temple, and his dominion. As we shall see, the next section of the book launches into the visions and dreams. The first set of recorded in the years of King Belshazzar, which means that Daniel saw these visions before he was faced with the conspirators and the lions. with such grand vision. We know why he uttered no word as he was brought in and thrown into the pit like a lamb to the slaughter. He uttered not one word and willingly went to the death, knowing that God would deliver him either through death, resurrection, and over death, shutting the mouth of the lions. Either way, Daniel was absolutely no fear. He would be redeemed and proven innocent and acquitted before his judge. He had seen the books open. He had recorded his vision for us to read and believe them as fact. Even though we may have the same experience he had receiving them, revelation is revelation. Whether written down or directly received, faith is all that is required. Chapter 7. God is our refuge, a stronghold, a help in trouble. Very near, therefore we're not afraid. Through the earth reels, though mountains topple in the sea, its waters rage and foam and swell, mountains quake, Salah. This is a river whose streams glad in God's city, the holy dwelling place of the Most High. God is in the midst, it will not be toppled. By daybreak, God will come to its aid. Nations rage, kingdoms topple at the sound of the thunder, the earth dissolves. The Lord of hosts is with us, the God of Jacob is our haven, Salah. Come and see what the Lord has done. He has wrought desolation on the earth. He put a stop to the wars throughout this earth. Breath taketh the bow, snappeth the beard, consigning the wagons to the flames. Desist, realize that I am God. I dominate the nations. I dominate the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our heaven. Salah. That's Psalms 46. Translation, Daniel 7. In year 1 of Belshazzar, king of Babel, Daniel saw a dream, a vision in his head upon his bed. Afterward, he wrote the dream. A head of words was said. The time that marked Belshazzar's first year of reign, or rather the co-regency, was given by his father Nabonidus, is difficult to pinpoint. From 8:1, it's clear that he ruled in the fashion for 3 years during Nabonidus' absence in Tema, which is fairly well documented. If we place this last night of this rule in October of 538 BCE, then we can safely place these visions somewhere before such time. His rule appears to have been during the 10-year absence of the father. If that was the case, we're looking at 548, 547 BCE without being precise. What is interesting here is that after the victory of Belshazzar at the end of chapter 5, we find the author editing his work to place these visions, or chapter 7 and 8 before the fall. The Babylonian is to fall is certain. The kingdom's dream in chapter 2 makes the plain in chapter 5 verifies its collapse. However, in the same fashion as Nebuchadnezzar, Daniel had a dream on his bed in his head. Upon awakening, it appears that he had dictated himself what he saw when heard, quite possibly to another scribe under him, that someone other than Daniel took his writings and added their own editorizations. Appears certain given the depiction of the visions of the words that were spoken in his head. The dream is singular, but the visions are plural. It was a dream of visions, a spoken word by the interpreted angel later to follow. Translation. Daniel replied, and he said, I was seen in the vision during the night, and behold, 4 winds of the heaven breaketh forth to the chief sea, and 4 chief beasts came upon the sea, and different from one another. The first is like a lion, and its wings a bird of prey. I was seen until its wings were plucked off, and it was lifted from the land, and upon a feet like a man it was made to rise, and the heart of man was given to it. If the vision of the first animal is strange and you're seeing correctly, this is a weird vision. The 4 winds of the heaven, north, east, south, and west, were swooning down upon the visionary sea. The sea that churning up on the water. Out of the sea comes 4 animals that are difficult from each other. The first is a griffin of sorts, a flying lion, a well-recognized image found through the ancient Near East in various parts. Someone plucks off the wings and it crashes to the land. It flies from the sea and crashes, however, it's lifted up by someone and made to stand on its feet. Not that it has feet like a man, but that it's standing on its feet like a man, or on its 2 legs. Now it's just a lion without its wings. However, being helped up as it's given some life, a heart of a man which will keep it alive for some time. Although not able to fly anymore, there is, in other words, some life that is propped up, but not all that it had originally. A lion operates according to its design. Man's heart, however, is deceitful above all things. The fact that the lion is given the heart of man is not a good image. It's given the heart of a sinner. Okay? I'm not going to evaluate that. And behold, another translation. And behold, another beast, the second one like it to a bear, and it was made to rise on one side, and 3 ribs were in its mouth between its teeth, and thou was saying, rise, eat more flesh, instead of eat more chicken. Like the lion, the bear is caused to rise by someone on the land. The standard saw the beast come up out of the sea and collapses on the land, but is caused by someone to rise on his side. Imagine a bear lying flat on his back, then being rolled to its side. It's then commanded to get up, which we assume that it does. It continues finishing up the flesh it was eating before it would collapse, which we right to assume that it would eat. Bears don't eat lying down on their backs. The reader would know that the animals have far more than 3 rib bones. Therefore, the fact he is told to eat more means to get the feel for 3 is hardly enough to fill anyone. So far, these animals need a lot of help, both of them are being weak to some extent that the bear may even be near death before it could be commanded to get up to rise. Thus, like the lion, life is given to it that it continues to do what a bear does, eat flesh so that it lives. These are the first words Daniel hears being uttered in the dream. We're to assume then that these words are from the powers of the heavenly host. The Septuagint uses the Arctos bear, from which we get the word Arctic region. Ursa Major and Great Bear. In the classic Greek period, there was the cult of the Artemis of Bear, in which was held a bear festival in worship of the goddess. Young girls would dress as bears and dance to the sound of flutes. The bear in the scripture is a ravenous beast. Both the bear and the lion are left uninterpreted. Translation. After this, I continued seeing, and behold, another like a leopard to wear 4 wings of a bird upon its back, and 4 heads to its beast, and a realm was given to it. The leopard is another commonly used symbol around the ancient world, but particularly in Egypt. The priests wore leopard skins, and many relief pictures of leopards standing with no ability. Unlike the lion, the leopard comes out of the sea, but it's not in the flight. A realm is given to it and does not seem to suffer the injuries of the first 2 beasts, however, the wings, not the wings of a bird of prey like the lions, but of a simple bird of fowl, different from the what lion's wings. In other words, 4 wings of a fowl cannot possibly generate flight for a 4-headed leopard. The leopard, in other words, is not soaring, but is grounded. It cannot fly, and so its wings remain. Nonetheless, in order to let it remain active on the others, is given a realm. These 3 animals were common enough in the scriptures. The prophets used them in the nations of people that they would attack Israel. Therefore, a lion from the forest shall strike them down, a wolf from the desert shall devastate them. A leopard is watching the cities. Everyone that goes out of them shall be torn to pieces, because their transgressions are many, their apostasies are great. Jeremiah 5:6. As if a man fled from a lion and a bear met him, and went to the house and leaned with his hand against a wall, a serpent bit him. Amos 5. These are the carnivorous animals, and their symbol mean nothing more than that. Daniel does not elaborate on them any further. That each of them is made weak is to be noted, however. The lion's wings are clipped and needed a new heart to live. The bear is flopped and on the ground until it's moved on its side and commanded to rise and eat. The leopard is lopsided, 4-headed, 4-winged beast with wings hardly adequate to make flight, and so it's given a realm to maintain, since it cannot get one of its own. These are the forces at work on the animals to help them along, and they even command the bear to rise and eat. Another factor is that there's no indication that these are animals replacing one another in successive order. Daniel is not seeing nor hinting at any type of succession here. They arrive on the land from the sea from which they were churned out of. The great sea is not identified either. It is the visionary sea, the sea from which all things burst forth. Daniel sees the 3 animals are together on the land. One of them has been clipped, another is made to rise and eat, and a third cannot fly, but is given realm nonetheless. Realm associates with a dominion, as of the land upon which they're on. All 3 of them are active at the same time, given lives, so to speak, and maintained by forces not their own. Both the lion and the bear are caused to rise, where the third is not, because it cannot fly, it does not fly, and so it's given a domain caused to rule these. Ding! Other features that are to be kept in mind were what we brought out of the text. Translation. After this, I continued seeing in the vision of the night, and behold, a 4th beast, terrifying, fearful, and exceedingly strong, is the word great, teeth of iron, eating and shattering, and the rim of his feet were trampling, and it was made different from all the beasts which are in front of it, and it had 10 horns. I may have to start slowing down, getting into this, so I can understand his view. This beast does not appear to be weak at all. It is changed, may differ from all the others to be sure, but we do not see any indication of the weakness in the others. There are no wings, no multiple heads, but there are 10 horns. Like the bear, it is eating its prey while trampling on the rest of the remnant of the land. The other beasts are in front of it, strongly suggesting their contemporary with its vision. The vision is a monstrous depiction of savagery. Unlike the other visions, the one frightening Daniel, it goes on in this vision to write down further details in it. I need to get my air conditioner is not working very well right now. certain points of the day. But if I usually put the fan on, it helps it. Let's just see. That's probably getting in y'all's mic. I don't want y'all to hear that buzzing sound. And just have to get through it. All right. Translation. I was especially directing attention to the horns, and behold, another horn, a small one, came up between them, and three from the first set of horns was rooted up from before it, and behold, eyes like eyes of the men were in his horn, and mouth speaking great things. That's worse. All right. The moralist finishes the initial description of what he saw. Attention is directed to the horns. There are 10 of them. He counted them. As he looked at them, he noticed another horn popping up between these horns, an 11th horn. As this horn comes up, 3 of the 10 horns are plucked out, and also strongly suggesting that the 3 horns that are removed are contemporaneous with the little horn. This leaves us with an 8-horned beast. 10 minus 3 equals 7. 1 plus 3 equals 8. Okay. And not a 10-horned beast. All right, let me look at that. I was especially attentive to the horn. Another horn, a small one, came up between them. Okay, well, how many horns does it had? It had 10 horns. So it has 10 horns according to this. One comes up. It's a small horn. So that makes 11. And then he plucks out 3. So that would be 11, 10, 9, 8. Yep. Okay. It is a very strange image. A beast with 4 legs, presumably trampled on the land, eating with iron teeth. It had 10 horns, but 3 of them are removed, leaving a total of 8. The little horn has eyes in it and has a mouth that utters great things. He must have heard what was said, but does not record it. Like the lion who had a heart of man, his horns had eyes and a mouth like man, which again points to the pride of man. The eyes of man are never full, and his mouth utters violence because of his heart is corrupt. These are human dominions. Translation. I continued seeing until kingly thrones are hurled, and I saw a seated ancient one, concerning his garment like snow, white snow, and the hair of his head pure wool. His royal throne is a flame of fire, his wheels burning fire. A river of fire flowed coming out in front of him. Thousands of thousands ministered to him, and 10,000s of 10,000 arose be him for judgment while he sat, and books were opened. Books. Okay. There's no shortage of scriptures that speak at the throne room of God in this manner. My wrath will break forth like fire and burn with none to quench it because of your wicked acts. Jeremiah 21. See Isaiah 3. More specifically, the numerous Psalms, Ezekiel 1, when God sits quite at rest upon his throne, acts of judgment commence and thrones are cast down. He raises up kings and he causes them to pass away. There's no description of his face. He is bright and shining. The fire consumes his chair. Rendered in the way of the fiery furnace in chapter 3. We are not told of those who thousands are. We are already there are without any specific number. Are these the souls of those who fall into sleep yet stand before him day and night? These are all considered angels? We're not told, but the best understanding is that they are a mixture of both. There is a company of thousands of thousands. There's a company of 10,000s of 10,000, suggesting a difference between the two groups. The scene is of a courtroom, a gathering of mighty powers. The judge is seated on the throne, and the writings are open. The case is being prosecuted, and the dais attends to the Ancient One's verdict concerning the blasphemous little horn. Before we have seen the angels in chapter 3, 4, and 6, we saw a hand in chapter 5. Throughout all of this, the God Most High, the God of heavens, the living God, the God whose dominion is from generation to generation, that sets up and throws down dominions, who does as he pleases and consults no man, whose dominion is eternal, has no beginning nor end, will never be destroyed, who changes the times and the seasons, and who will set up a dominion, a rock that will become a mountain that moves out all other mountains, a people. So he's taking mountain, the people. Okay, is now for the time seen in the most high heavens on the throne, for where all purposes the land originate. The throne is where all the plans and the masteries over man has hatched, and by the myriads of the beck and call carried out and implemented on the land. The rest of the book of Daniel was a small portion of what is written in the books before him. Thrones will be thrown down, thrones will be raised up, generations will come, generations will go, but he who sits enthroned remains forever. This is a recorded vision of a man of God, written down as he saw it. It is real, true, trustworthy, and how it is the reality unseen behind the appearance of things seen. History. Translation. I continue seeing thereafter from the voice of the great words which were born was speaking. I continue seeing until the horn that belongs to the beast was slain and its body was destroyed, and it was given to burn in the fire the remains of the beast. These realms were eternally taken away. That is, a lengthening of the life was given to them until an appointed time and a length of time. The sense we get here is that Daniel seeing the horn speaking great things is suddenly interrupted by the great throne scene. The horn is speaking great things, and he's doing so. The throne vision breaks in, and Daniel sees that God is hardly disturbed by these great sayings, but he is rather preparing to bring the hammer down on them. A horn rooted the beast, which is stirred up by the powers of heaven, is mouthing great things as if he's in control with something. And then Daniel sees the utterly inexplicably massive strong of the God of the four winds of the heaven, who was in control here, a freakish horn of the Ancient of Days. Thus, after the vision during the dream, Daniel resumes commenting on the horn when he's speaking great things. After he sees God, the voice of the horn is still speaking, and he continues to see until the horn is slain. Remember, it had 10 horns, but 3 were uprooted and no longer on the beast. Then the little horn in this time is brought to an end by being given the burning fire, presumably the judgment of the Ancient of Days, whose throne is full of fire, a stream of burning fire, from which fire consumes the throne. However, what about the remaining beasts of the 3 horns, who in front of the Septuagint uses the circle around the 4th beast, 7, 7, and 19 on the 8th horned beast? What happens to them? Here we are assured that they were contemporaneous with the 4th beast as with the other. These beasts do not represent successive dominions, but contemporaneous dominions. The others that remain are simply allowed to remain. They are given a prolongation of life that matches the imagery of the dream, and the lion is given the heart of man life, even though his wings have been clipped. The bear is raised up and commanded to eat life. The leopard is given the realms, same word here. Eventually, at some indefinite appointed time and season or length of time, these realms come to an end. We are given no specifics. This is the last thing said about them in this dream. A more bit of information is given about the horn and the interpretation that follows. To better understand the language here, we need only confer with the prophet who's written so far with the first 6 chapters. All of the languages are found here so that there's no mistake as to what he wants the reader to understand. If the reader has been paying attention, first, Nebuchadnezzar's realm was taken away at 520. His dominion passed away from him at 431, using the same word, using a different verb form. God causes dominions to pass away, 221, and changes the times and the season, 221, which I have translated as appointed time and length of time. Daniel's advice is that Nebuchadnezzar repents so that his dominion is lengthened, 427. In short, his realm was taken away, and yet he's given it back, 425. Thus the beast, the remainder, as we may include the 3 horns plucked off the 4th beast, if applicable, are the remainders, and they are allowed given the realm for however long their specified time is determined after the destruction of the little horn beast. Therefore, with the wording here in the visually, with the dream itself, these 3 beasts are contemporaneous with the 4th beast, and even outlive the little horn. It would be a great injustice to the dream in the text to suggest that these are successive beasts or representative successive empires. Okay. Excuse me. I must note that rather than usual construction we find in the Greek text, the Septuagint, it reads, "In the ones around the beast, God took away their power, but until he did that, they were given the time of life until a time and season," the time of life, The word encircled is used in 7:7 and 7:19, a different form for the trampling of the fourth beast feet, whose around is used in 5:6. This may reflect the translator's idea of the other beasts being encircled around the fourth beast or around the sea from which they all came, contemporaneous, not to mention the possibility of the other three horns that were plucked, if Daniel does not say that the little horn killed him. Thus, we're not told that the fourth beast was entirely destroyed when the little horns were killed and destroyed clearly. However, whatever remained of them continued on for a time and season after the little horn was destroyed. Translation. I continue seeing the visions of the night, and behold, with clouds of the heaven were like the Son of Man came. He was, even to the Ancient of Days he reached, and before him they brought him near, and to him a realm and honor and dominion of all the people, the nations and language to him pay reverence. His realm is a realm of age which shall never pass away, and his dominion shall never be destroyed. This ends technically the visions that Daniel saw in his dream at night. The visions, plural, were of the great sea being churned up, and each of the four beasts coming out of it. Another vision was the interjected vision of God's throne room. Another was the fourth eight-horned beast, of which his little horn was killed and burned, where the remain of the animals lived on. Finally, he sees another vision of one like the Son of Man, who comes, Erchomai in the Septuagint, being led into the presence of the Ancient of Days by the Myriads. The Septuagint has the verb parime for his arrival before the judge, which is the verbal form of the word parousia. The Septuagint actually uses a string of verbs here. He was present, and the one having been presented paristemi was presented parime to him. These words, Erchomai and parousia, are found throughout the New Testament in reference to Jesus, particularly in Matthew and John's Revelation. John's imagery in chapter 1 explicitly refers to the vision here. Thus, the coming of the one like the Son of Man is to the Ancient of Days, and being led into his presence, he's made to be present. The Ancient of Days, and after with him with the realm, honor, and dominion. As a result, the people, the nations, the languages pay reverence to him. The titles and strings of honors here were nothing new, but the readers at this point, there are the exact same as described to King Nebuchadnezzar and to King Cyrus Darius. Weird to imagine then that this Son of Man person is given what God has been given to the kings, realms, dominions of the land, empires. The difference is that eventually pass away, or the dominions are destroyed. This one would not pass away nor even be destroyed. Daniel means for us to compare or contrast these dominions in this book with the dominions which is given to the enigma person, which has been led into the throne, enigmatic person which has been led into the throne room of the Ancient of Days and appears as one present before him. When he is handed or given the dominion, this is understood in terms of the earthly dominion that's been in Daniel. It has been contrasted with the dominion of God, which is eternal and alone in the heavens. God's dominion rules over all the dominion of the land because he's given the dominion and taken them away. The Son of Man persona is given the dominion in the same manner, but his dominion over the land will not be taken away or destroyed, unlike the rest of the dominions of the Son of Man. Also, the notice the nations will serve him, a verb using Daniel only for God. In 3:12, 14, 17, 18, 28, 6, 17, and 20. What is also be noted here is that the phrase never be destroyed harkens back to the dream image of Nebuchadnezzar in chapter 2, the declaration of King Cyrus in chapter 6. God's dominion is a dominion that cannot be destroyed. It's not a dominion that's set up, but one that simply is. It is eternal. It's already fully entirely in operation over the mastery of men. Daniel has made this clear, however, a rock was to come, and the God of the dominion of the heavens was to be set up, a dominion which will never be destroyed nor left to another. These two dominions, one that is eternal and the other that is set up, are now linked with the one, the Son of Man. He is made a king. God himself is already king of the kings, as Daniel has already said previously. However, it appears that here is enthroned in the king like a son of the man. He's sitting the king with the same attributions he's already possessed throughout the book. When, who, and how we are not specified is not even attached as search to follow the little horn beast. Rather, it's another night vision within the dream and several visions plural. It pops up, so to speak, out of nowhere, and it's entirely unexpected, unprecedented Daniel up to this point. The parousia of this Son of Man, his arrival to the Ancient of Days, and been given his own dominion over all the others, is at this point a mystery. What should be seen, however, is there is progression of events. Four beasts arise together, and one of them is very powerful. Among the others, exemplifies eventually in the eighth king, a little horn. This king is killed, and the other dominions remain until a time in the season is within the time in the season. At some point, the Son of Man approaches the Ancient of Days and receives a kingdom of his own. The nations, the people will serve him. This is the hint that the Son of Man persona is like it to the Ancient of Days himself. He stands before him and is given the service of the nations, the service which is noted is used exclusively for God and Daniel, the service that is to be given to God God is given to the one like the Son of Man, who may indicate the divine nature of this figure, acting as the Ancient of Days representative, standing in this place to receive a worship from the nations due to the Ancient of Days. The variation of the DH text, DH, is that Theodosus? Probably. 150 AD, and the Old Greek, or the Septuagint, suggests many ideas have been greatly explored by scholars. Of course, I'm maintaining the integrity of the Masoretic text. Okay. My spirit, translation. My spirit was troubled, I Daniel, in the middle of the sheep that is in the vision of my head alarmed me. Strange way to put it. Daniel's body is metaphorically a sheep, in which his spirit is troubled and alarmed by what he saw. 2:1, 2, 4, and 2 was the same as said in Nebuchadnezzar. For Hebrew anthropology, man is a body with a head that has thoughts within his spirit. His spirit resides in the body like a sword in a sheep. Daniel's guts hurts. His head hurts. These visions are emotionally draining on him. He has no real clue as to what the meaning, as to what he's seen, and neither does the reader at this point. And as he's seen in the previous dreams, chapter 2 and 4, he seeks an interpretation. It may be that this is how we receive the interpretation of the king dreams. He saw the image of the king, the statue, and it was revealed to him what it meant. An angel must have told him in the dream. This is why Daniel could repeat the details of the king. In the other dream, chapter 4, Nebuchadnezzar tells him that the images. Daniel was puzzled for a moment and then interprets it. Here he's puzzled, alarmed, and troubled. And so he asked an angel, what does this all mean? I came near to one from whom words standing to petition the truth from him all about all this. And he spoke to me, and a picture of the words he caused me to know. These, the great beasts, these four, the four kings who had caused to rise from the land, the Holy One of the Most High, will receive the dominion, and they will possess the dominion to the age, even into the age. Hello from Iraq. Are you a Christian, Brian? Here we explicitly told that the four beasts represents four kings who were caused to rise on the land with the vision showed. This would be the first set of the visions. Then he said his vision of the Ancient of Days, followed by another vision of the remaining the beast and the destruction of the little horn. Another vision is given when he saw the one like the Son of Man, who was given a dominion and the interpretation. However, the vision is left partially explained. However, the saints are introduced, receiving a dominion of their own. They will possess the dominion of the age and beyond. Some see this as expressing the notion of forever and ever. If we left with the vision alone and now stands, we're given no idea what horns, 3 ribs, 4 wings, and such are to represent, if anything, significant in all. These are the 4 kings, later called dominions of the Holy One, who received the dominion. Darius received the dominion in 6:1. Same word, thus taking the dominion conveys the earthly dominion as did it for Nebuchadnezzar and Darius. God gives his dominions as he pleases. Know that the Most High rules in the dominions of men and gives it to whosoever he wills. 429. He gave a dominion to Nebuchadnezzar and to King Darius. Here 4 kings are given dominion, and finally the holy ones of saints, plural, the Most High, will be given the dominion, and they will possess it forever. God gave the dominion of the king Jehoiakim over the hand of Nebuchadnezzar in 1:1. Basically, the angel gave the long and short interpretation. If the 4 beasts represent 4 kings, then we know that one of them will be slain and burned by the consuming fire of God's throne. The remains are allowed to live for a time in the season. This is not enough for Daniel, however, and he presses on. However, to repeat, God's dominion is over all these dominions, and he gives these dominions on the earth as he sees fit. God has not given his own dominion to them. These are dominions of nation states that we know as political powers over peoples by people. Thus, when the Son of Man is given like Darius in dominion of people who are under his rule, and this dominion is to be received by them, it is the dominion like the others and is set among the others. The difference between them is the dominion of people is forever and will never pass away. It will outlast all of the dominions. Another point is to raise one off a miss is that these are 4 dominions that will in the future arise. The Babylonian kingdom is finished. The Persian Median kingdom was, by the time of Belshazzar's reign, well established. Daniel was being told of these 4 dominions that will rise in the future. You say, is this a presentation of fatty liver disease? I may be the wrong place. Yeah. You want to say I got fatty liver disease? Why? Because I have trouble when I breathe. Oh, you want to be Brian? You think that you were tired? You want to say that you bad because you come from Iraq? You know what I say? I say that's a bunch of crap. That's all stacked up like the Tower of Babel. Don't get mad at me. I got the juice like Snapple ready to bite into the apple. But this ain't New York, and no, we're not talking about no true port. You can make fact jokes all that you want, but it don't matter. You're probably over there rolling the blunt. Probably got it laced with something that you don't even like. So don't get get mad at me and mad because I'm white, or maybe you have a different type of color, maybe bronze. It don't matter, but you're singing your own song, so it's prolonged that you become the type that can become the target. So don't get mad at me when I be a hard head and come at you because you came at me first. So don't get mad if I got this thirst, this bloodlust, so for people for in God and trust. I get mad at you, I asked what is up. I said, are you a Christian, to see if you listen. But now that I know you're a bitchin' to be dissing, so I'll get to you with the quickness. So don't get mad because you know you're gonna miss it. You're never gonna forget the fact that you pulled up on a stream and this dude was all pieces serene, reading from a book as if it was a stream, going everything but you'll blow to smithereens. You think you're in Iraq that you can pull with some shrapnel? Well, get ready because I'm ready to tackle. You can get mad, I'm not a doctor, I didn't mean him. So what could you say? What you mean then? I would like for you to explain yourself. Right now it feels like you're trying to change yourself. Change from the mind that you really had. Let me know what you feel, because maybe you're feeling bad. Maybe you thought that you were making fat jokes and the fatty liver disease, and maybe everything needs to be appeased. So let's find out if it's being released, and then I'll let it be at peace. Versus Dr. Sam Frost. You know what? I think you got a point. There is a Dr. Sam Frost. Medical doctor. He's a radiologist, though. So, yeah, maybe you're in the wrong place. Either way. So, back to the lecture at hand. The phrasing, and I came near to one of them standing was the same words as 7, 10, and 13, where the mirror stood before the Ancient of Days, and the Son of Man drew near, was made to stand. In the same descriptive fashion that Daniel draws near to the one of the mirrors he stood before the Ancient of Days. Translation. Thereupon I was concerned about the truth about the fourth beast, which was changed from all of them, extreme for fearful, its teeth of iron, its nails of bronze, devouring, breaking the remnants, and feet were trampling. And the 10 horns that are on its head, and another which came up, and the 3 which were before it, that is the horn that had eyes on it, the mouth speaking great things, and the chief appearance from his companions. Daniel had added a few features here that were not written down at first. He had mentioned the nails of bronze and the fact that the 3 other horns are the little horns companions that are contemporary to whatever extent, but certainly not distinct in terms of relation. It's also interesting he does not focus on the one like a son of man, which is a miss here in the interpretation. The persona is not interpreted. Some have imagined that the saints of the Most High represent the one like the Son of Man, but this is not borne out of the text in terms of necessary connection. The fact that the saints receive a dominion, the reign, and that the Son of Man is given a dominion, as well as a reign, must suggest a relationship, but does not necessitate one in terms that one stands for and others so that they are the same. I studied in Pakistan and came up with the ranks. I'm a Muslim doctor, not a radiologist. Okay. But yeah, you found the wrong channel. But hey, never know. That might have been part of Cotter, right? I continued looking at the horn being made war with the holy ones, and it was over them until the Ancient of Days came, and the judge gave to the Holy One of the Most High. Any appointed time was reached, and the Holy One possessed the dominion. Just when we thought the visions were over, Daniel added a few more details. However, it is something to see that after he had saw the vision of the 4 beasts, the Ancient of Days, or is this an additional scene at the time he's asking the angel to make him understand? In other words, Daniel sees the visions of the 4 beasts and sees the Ancient of the Days and the arrival of the one like the Son of Man receiving the dominion, after which he asks for an explanation. And during this, he sees yet another vision concerning the 4th beast, which ties in together with the judgment of the Ancient of Days, the remnant, always with the article the that is being trampled upon are the holy ones and the Most High. The trampling is taking place under the reign of the 8th horn, a king, on this 4th beast. During the time of prevailing and appointed time was set and reached. At that time, the Ancient of the Days gives a dominion to the holy ones, the earthly dominion. The other 3 beasts are allowed to live for an appointed time, same word and same and time afterwards. We must also point out the saints are involved in a war with the horns and beasts, and they trample to given over to him. They cannot be said, and this not said concerning the one like the Son of Man. Is he trampled on? Does the beast make war with him in terms of trampling on him? This aspect further scores the notion that the one like the Son of Man is not the same as the saints of the Most High. The saints and the Son are two separate entities. The angel continues from there. Translation. Thus he said the fourth beast will be fourth dominion in the land, which is different from all the dominions, and it will eat all the land that will trample it and shatter it. More information is given. The beasts are now called dominions. The fourth one does not eat those dominions. These dominions then are certainly contemporaries. The horn of the fourth beast is slain, but the other three dominions are allowed to live for a length of time or afterwards. The fourth dominion is larger than the others, has more land than they do, however, more to the point that glare with these four that will be caused to rise from the land. Daniel was writing in the first year of Belshazzar, the final years of Babylon. He could not possibly then be referring to one of these dominions as Babylon that will rise from the earth, when in fact he saw the vision from Babylon was a few years for being eradicated. This is rather obvious then. In other words, Babylon is not one of the beasts that Daniel saw, and neither would be Persia and Media. Okay. Translation. And the 10 horns from it dominion are 10 kings who will rise, and another will rise after them, and he will be changed from the former ones, and will bring low 3 kings. The 10 horns of the fourth beast are 10 kings, but 3 of them will be brought low. Nebuchadnezzar was brought low. In chapter 4, God changes kings and causes them to rise and pass away. Thus God will grant this fourth beast his dominion, and it's granted that its 11th horn shall come to 8 by removing 3. Note the 3 are contemporaneous with each other. The 8th horn is a king who will remove 3 kings, his fellows and companions, and thus dominion quite specific indeed. Translation. And he will speak some words concerning the Most High, and he will wear out the holy ones of the Most High, and attempt to change appointed times and law, and they will be given in his hand at times, and half a time, but the judge will sit, and his dominion will be made to pass away, utterly destroyed to the end, and the dominion and the realm, and the greatness of the dominion, and all of the heavens he gave to a people, holy ones of the Most High. His dominion is a dominion that age, and all the realms will serve him, and they will obey him. Thus at the end of the word of Daniel, my thoughts are greatly alarmed, and my brightness changed over me, and the word I kept in my heart. The little horn became the main focus of the vision. This is the victory of the saints. We are now the people. If we remember the rock, there will become a mountain, and eventually the only mountain in the dominion that would not be left to another people. It starts as a rock. In these visions, it is granted the status of being a dominion like other earthly ones. This rock is the starting point of this dominion. However, during the time of the little horn, the people will become its own dominion. There has been their growth. Nevertheless, is coming trampling of the saints, decree of the judge, they are given over to the trampling of the fourth beast for an appointed time, times and half a time, which is left entirely unspecified. Nebuchadnezzar had passed over 7 times. Judgment of God's dominion and eternal dominion will be decided in favor of the saints and the dominion on earth. The end here is when the little horn is destroyed, when the remains of the beast dominions are allowed to live on for their own appointed time and a long time. There's no focus at all on these other dominions. They are not the focus because they're not the ones that are trampled, the remnant people of God. Out of the trampling, however, dominion of the saints will emerge triumphant. Many have come to the conclusion that Nebuchadnezzar's dream and the visions of Daniel beasts here are one and the same. However, even comparing them together, the differences are far more than similarities. If any, upon comparison, rather, it's easy to see that they are not the same at all. The king's dream concerning his own dominion and the continuance of it through his heirs to the throne. Daniel's visions of 4 dominions. For dominions, they are contemporary with one another and not successive in any ways. Indicated in the dream of the king envisions the trampling of the saints and showing up the ancient of days. The king's vision confirms the fall of Babylonian empire with the establishment of rock taken from a mountain, which eventually over the span of time, ages, grows into a mountain. I interpreted the rock as a return from exile. Whoa, really? I interpreted the rock as a return from exile, yet under the auspices of Persia, Israel did not have any independency. Daniel's visions here have nothing to do with the return from exile, which has been dominant theme throughout. Rather, the holy ones, the saints, are trampled. This assumes that they have returned from their exile and have been returned for quite some time, since they are pictured in the dreams as living during the rise of four dominions. Okay, return from exile. If the saints are being trampled after the exile, certainly not before and certainly not during, then the rise of the four contemporary dominions must be explained. It is not explained here, for no specific dominion has been named. However, as Daniel progresses on, this is about to change. We may note before leaving the set of visions that the vision of the Son of Man being given dominion, being such a key figure, is left without any further reference. The parallel of the receiving of the dominion by the saints has caused some to think that they stand for the Son of Man. That is not convincing. However, the saints are trampled on and handed over times and half a time by the little horn beast. This is not said of the Son of Man. In literary criticism, what is often left out is meant to make a point. The fact that the author focuses in on the little horn and its identity over and against focusing on the Son of Man is telling. There's a connection between the saints being trampled and the little horn being destroyed when the Ancient of Days renders his judgment in favor of the saints. We must ask the question of the visions which Daniel does not ask. Does the separate vision of the Son of Man and his being given a dominion coincide with the victory of the saints? Since the interpretation is apparently left out concerning the identity of the Son of Man, and since there's no aspect of being trampled on for a time by the little horn, specifically then making the saints stand for symbolically the Son of Man appears difficult. If the identity of the little horn were known, then we may have gathered to make a guess as to when the Son of Man appears. What may emerge then is that Daniel sees the vision of four contemporary beasts, diminish the other three are left alone in terms of the importance, because the fourth monster tramples and makes war with the saints under the rule of the little horn. Judgment is rendered to the saints at their times and half a time, and they're rewarded with a dominion of their own, but that is not the end of the night visions. Daniel also saw one like the Son of Man being given the dominion as he arrives before the Ancient of Days is ushered into the presence and made to be present. Who this person is left out. Hold on, guys. I gotta take some cough syrup. All right. Daniel also saw one like a Son of Man being given dominion as he arrives before the Ancient of Days, is ushered into the presence and made to be present. Who this person is left out. When this event happens, it's not stated, but leaving it out of the concern of the prophet and focusing on the fierce war with the saints by the little horn. Notes the Son of Man vision is separate from the events of this war. Textually speaking, it appears that it may be included with those events, but not necessarily. This is the point to keep in mind as we continue. There is one final aspect that some scholars of Daniel have noted, that this is the saints of the Most High are being given a dominion by the Ancient of Days, who is the Most High. However, is the Most High represented by the Son of Man, who is exalted by the nation Most High. An interesting understanding arises. In Genesis 14, we first encounter the term Most High, Elyon, associated with God, possessor of heaven and earth. The next is number 24:16, where the prophet Balaam sees visions of the Most High. Well, what he saw was a man, Septuagint, or a star, a scepter that will come out of Jacob and Israel, a ruler of the Most High. Israel too is called Most High. Deuteronomy 26, it is the Most High who gave the nations their lot. Elyon Elyon is used only 4 times in Daniel. The saints of the Most High are given the dominion that has been given to the Son of Man. God, the Most High, is not given the dominion to himself. He already is the possessor of the heavens and the earth and the giver of what is. Thus, the Most High in these passages is the Son of Man, the highest exalted man, the star of Jacob, the scepter of Israel, the highest title that can be given to a man by the Ancient of Days, who was the Most High God. And he, the Most High, will give to you the singular Most High above all of the nations which he's made for praise and for name and for beauty, and for you, singular, being a holy people, saints. Deuteronomy 26:19. The Son of Man is given this, and in turn the saints of the Most High are to receive the kingdom he has been given by the Ancient of Days, the Most High. In this way, the visions of the Son of Man being given the kingdom blend. The Son of Man is the represented man of the Most High, sharing his glory, power, and might of the Ancient of Days. The Most High gives to the Son of Man the same status as ancient in Deuteronomy 26 for Israel. One of the sons will be exalted Elyon. As such, a son can give to the saints who are to receive what is already previously received, a dominion over the nations. There is an order then. The Son of Man must first appear before the throne of the Ancient of Days to receive all power, dominion over above all Elyon, and a name above all names. Well, with Daniel, this happens at some point after the Ancient of Days destroys the little horn. The coming in judgment of the Ancient of Days is 722 against the little horn. And with Daniel, after the time and the season of the remainders of the beast, authority passes away. With the representative God, man before God has been given the dominion, and the fact that this dominion will be successful, unlike Israel, who did not obtain the status. Then he is the one a man is to give to man, is given tenants for man, dominion over the earth, and righteousness, holiness, saintliness, destroying the enemies of God once and for all. The Son of Man then restores to man by possessing with righteousness and dominion over the heavens and the earth, as a man that is not susceptible to death or contingently based, which is contingent on whether the Son of Man was successful or failed. Every man in the nation of Israel itself failed, starting with Adam because of sin, but the Son of Man would not fail. He will reach and draw near to the throne of the Ancient of Days and receive dominion forever. With this in hand, he can rightly give to the saints, the Holy One, those who love, serve the Ancient of Days, and the Son of Man of righteousness, thus to be given. The saints are then in possession for the first time a granted guarantee, a dominion that will eventually bring about the heavens and the earth as their possession, heaven under the same, and the Son of Man is under his feet. Daniel announces then the time, Hakarios Greek, when this will happen. The blended together then the words of the Son of Man and be given the dominion, the coming before the Ancient of Days proceeds when the time came for the saints to receive the kingdom. His kingdom in Daniel 7:13. The Son of Man came, I thought in Aramaic, before the Ancient of Days. The Septuagint uses periime for the word, as we noted. The Theodosin, which is based more on the Masoretic text, uses the Greek verb pathano, to come, here in 722. The Aramaic and Daniel uses matha. In both cases noted the blended but also the differences. The time came for the Son of Man to receive a dominion, to be followed to some point afterward for a time when the saints receive the dominion. This is spelled out as mentioned above in 727, where the dominion is given to the people, meaning plural, meaning followed by his singular. Dominion is everlasting, and to him singular will they serve, plural, and he plural. The Son of Man is revered, not the people. The Son of Man is the one who has been given all dominion, who in turn gives this to his people. The Son of Man is the representative of the Ancient of Days, sharing in his glory, and in turn the people who hear the Son of Man are his representatives on earth, while the Son of Man is in heaven before the throne. The fact that the Son of Man has been given the kingdom and the dominion and the greatness of the kingdoms under the whole heaven, which is in turn shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, demonstrates that all the God, the Most High, possessor of heaven and earth, and all that was created, possessed it, and has been given to the Son of Man, who will be given to the saints. The inheritance of the saints is that which is under the whole heaven. All of it in subjection to him, will be in subjection to them. Chapter 8. We're in Daniel chapter 8 now. Biblically based. Okay. Maybe one day I'll study more about Little Season to fully understand your view. But one battle at a time, SP. Chapter 8. In the third year, King Belshazzar's dominion, the vision appeared to me, I, Daniel, after the one that appeared to me in the beginning. Belshazzar's reign was soon to end. The Babylonian dominion is the vision in the previous one is not Daniel's concern. As stated in the previous vision, he saw 4 dominions that will rise together on the land, and none of them are the Babylonians, which would simply make no sense to say he saw the Babylonian dominion as a beast that will rise in the land in the final years of Belshazzar. As we would get closer to the demise of the Babylonian dominion in the 3rd year of Belshazzar, Daniel records another vision to be added to the previous one. This one expands on one we saw before, that what left him alarmed. What did these 4 beasts mean? Where did they come, and what did they mean that the saints to be trampled? The one that comes like a son of man. Who was that? Jeremiah said that after the 7 years of Babylon, Judah will return to her land and be prosperous. What is the trampling of the 4th beast? Are we to be trampled again? Questions. If we place ourselves in Belshazzar's 3rd year and we're expecting the fulfillment of Jeremiah to become a reality within a few years more of the subject of chapter 9, it can be understood that Daniel was alarmed by what he saw. It made no sense. Jeremiah said restoration, wealth, prosperity, new covenant, and the nations will worship the branch. What is this business of being trampled again by future 4th dominion? What is this going to happen? This is a good point. We should also note that the text now switched back to Hebrew. From 2:4 through the whole of 7, the text has been in Aramaic. Daniel was leaving the Aramaic speaking word and now back to his own element as he anticipates fulfillment of the Hebrew prophets. There were 2 visions given to him of Belshazzar's reign were coming to its end. Babylon, as we shall see, like the previous version, is nowhere to be found. Translation. Now the vision I see at the times I saw, I was in the palace of Shushan, which was in Elam and district. Now I see in the vision that I was beside the Ulai River. A bit of geography is needed here. Shushan, Susa today, called Shushan in Iran, was an important strategic siege of the Persian Empire. It was located east of Babel in the province of Elam, Median territory. It was the capital of Elam, captured by Cyrus around 539 BC, during the time when the Babylon fell. Which is fascinating is that Nabonidus resided in Susa. According to his descriptions, he left there and returned to Babel in the last year, 538, and left the city months before it fell under his son Belshazzar in October. Prior to this, he had not been in Babel for a number of years. Thus, the years of Belshazzar's reign, Susa fell on the Greeks under Alexander, then the massive Seleucid Empire, which began in 312. It became eventually the capital of the Persian Empire, whether under Cyrus or his son Cambyses or Darius II. Daniel sees himself there at the brink of a major change in empires. Isaiah 21, it mentions a coalition of the Elamites and Media in the overthrow of Babylon. It is quite interesting that Cyrus plots his course of Babel from the city of the Ulai stream. Aluas, modern Duas, flows from the Zargos mountain into Elam, Kazakhstan. It is connected with the ancient Choapsis, from which reportedly Cyrus stockpiled water for the venture west to Babylon. In Daniel's affair with the dominion of Babylon, he would have known and frequented this place, interacting with the locals and customs. And it's tradition he was buried in this area. He never ventured back to Judah as far as we know. Translation. And I lift up my eyes and behold one ram standing toward the river's face, and with 2 horns, and the horns were high, every one higher than the second, and the second one comes up. Behind the former I saw the ram push it toward the sea, and to the north to the Negev, and no beast could stand before it, and there was none snatching from its hand, and it does what it pleases, and it became great. So Alexander the Great, here we go. There is one ram with 2 horns, one horn growing taller than the other. From Susa, it heads east toward the sea, would be the Mediterranean, north in the sea, then the Negev, the south, the Palestine, occasionally Egypt itself. From Susa, then, Babel was east, Media is north, and Egypt is south. If we were to use what we know so far about beasts, a single beast, dominion, has 2 kings or dominions that head toward Babel, Media, and Egypt. No beast dominion stands before it, unlike the 3 beasts that stood before the 4th in chapter 7. This is further confirmation that the 4 animals we saw previously were contemporaneous, since 3 stood before the 4th. Yeah, he has a way different view of Daniel than I'm used to, even on the issue of the beasts. The phrase, does what he pleases and became great, was descriptive of Nebuchadnezzar, and becomes descriptive throughout the rest of the book of the Kings. God does as he pleases in the heavens and gives dominion to man as he sees fit. Daniel is to always be read in light of what was preceded in his pages. Translation. And while I was observing, behold, a male goat, a hairy one, came from the west over the face of the whole land, and it does not touch the land. And the male goat, a horn of vision between its eyes. Do you consider? No, I don't consider the Septuagint as inspired, but I do think it's important to use. as a translation, as a commentary. And the reason I don't consider it inspired is I don't believe that inspiration was going on during the silent years until Jesus' birth, when you have Simeon and Anna, the prophetess or whatever, around that time. When he sees the ram covering over the areas of Babylonian Media and Negev, and also there's multiple Septuagints, it's not just one. Negev said to south, another beast entered the vision, a male goat, and the horn of vision, some translations of a conspicuous horn. Again, we could deduce from the previous vision that this is yet another dominion with a prominent king. And so we have a lion, a bear, a leopard, a monster added to a ram and a goat from the west, when the term west is used instead of towards the sea. The goat is not from the sea, but from the far west. It does not touch the land, which can indicate the land of Israel is often called. The ram heads toward the Mediterranean Sea, which borders the land, and specifically south in the Negev of the land. We have to keep in mind that Daniel does not have a satellite image of the globe here, like we do. Translation. And he comes to see the ram, owner of the horns, which I saw standing before the face of the river, and he runs to him in the fury of his power, and I saw him reaching near the ram, was emitted to him, and he strikes the ram and shatters the two horns, and there was no power in the ram to stand before his face, and it threw it to the land and trampled it, and there was none to snatch the ram from his hand. The descriptive conclusion of the goat striketh the ram is saying what the ram was in power. While the ram had power, like Nebuchadnezzar, none could stand, for God had given him all things for a time. Here the ram enjoys the power for a time. None can stand against it. However, a goat comes along and strikes the ram, throwing it down and trampling on it. The goat has now been given dominion and power, and none can snatch it from his hand except the Lord, of course. Thus, what we see here is dominion going to war against another one subduing it. We do not see any of this in the previous vision of the four beasts. The bear certainly eats his fill, and the third beast is given the realm. The three stand, however, before the fourth beast, who had trampled the whole land. Nevertheless, they remain, while the eighth horn of the monster animal comes to an end. Here, the picture is of the annihilation. The ram rules the realm for however long, and the goat comes out and replaces him entirely. Yeah, why was I saying earlier I knew the ram was Medo and Persia. Why was I thinking? The goat is Alexander. And the bell gave, the heavy one became exceedingly great, but as the mightiness, the great horn was broken forth, came out of its place, a vision to the four winds of heaven, the one from the others, and from the one born out a little one that grew exceedingly great, toward the Negev, to the sunrise, and to the glorious. The description remains the same as they have been throughout the book. However, a sharp turn focuses on a little horn that comes out of the four winds of the heaven. The language unmistakably calls us back to chapter 7 and the four beasts that came up out of the churning sea, to the four winds of 7 and 7:2. Out of these four beasts, a little horn comes up and treads the whole land. There could be no doubt that these two visions are connected, and the little horn here is one and the same. The little horn there. This also means that the four horns that come out of the horns of the shaggy goat are the four dominions beasts in chapter 7. This little horn becomes a massive dominion, and the heads to the Negev region to the east, sunrise, and the region of the glorious one. Some translations say beautiful land. Land is not in the text, but this does not discount the translation. The word is a noun, not an adjective. It also has the article the, and may is obvious have reference to the land crossed over by the shaggy goat, that is Israel. Israel is called the desired land, the beautiful inheritance, Jeremiah 3. We will have to see if this interpretation bears out. Translation. And it grew toward the hosts of the heavens, and it caused it to fall the land from the hosts and from the stars, and it tramples upon them from them. He took the continual and cast out the arrangement of the sanctuary, and the host was given in addition to the continual because of transgression. And he threw truth to the land, and he prospered. Interesting. This is highly enigmatic, to say the least. The horn grows in its power and attacks the captain of the host army, a common phrase in the Hebrew. It stirs up a fall on the land, assumed Judah. Concerning some of the army, that even the stars of saints, and it tramples both. The continual is generally understood as the continual offers of the daily arrangement in the temple in Judah. All throughout the book of Numbers, this word is used. The sanctuary is not destroyed, but the daily arrangements within it are cast out. The phrase, because of transgression, is a bit of an issue. Is this because of the horn's transgression or the host? Throwing with truth, the land is akin to chapter 7. where the little horn attempts to change the types of law. Then he tramples the holy ones because they have been given over to him by God. We find the same here, making it certain that the little horn is both visions of one and the same king, the eighth horn of the fourth beast. As I stated, the trampling of the holy ones assumes that they have returned to the land and been restored. Here the vision expands this to include the fact that the temple itself, this continual offerings have been restored as well. The holy ones even have their own army, over which there is, like in the times before the exile, a captain of the host in Joshua 5:14 and 15. Angelic being is called the captain of the host, the high priest, the priest in general, also called a captain of prince. Lamentations 2:2 states, he has 2:2, sound like I'm shooting a gun. He have not pitied any of the pleasant places of Jacob. He had broken down in his wrath the fortresses of the daughter of Judah. He had caused to come to earth. He polluted the kingdom and his princes. With other examples of this kind of language suggests that the transgression of the princes and the priests and the high priests is at fault. Judah is thrown to the land, and the princes, in other words, they have been given over yet again to the king horn because of transgression. It is as if the exile was taking place all over again, and Nebuchadnezzar is back in town. Translation. And then I heard one of the holy ones speaking, and one of the holy ones said to a certain one, until when it is the vision, the continual offering of the transgression, the desolation one said, and holy things the host trample in place. And he said to me, to evening, morning, 2,000 and 3,000, then the holy things will be put right. All right. Even though the interpretation has not been given, it is becoming clear simply based on the previous vision that Judah is to undergo yet another desolation of sort due to the transgression. This is what the vision is about. It's an appointed time, 722, at times and half a time, 725, or here 2,300 days, mornings and evenings. That is, the vision concerns several things that happen within the span of time. The vision concerns the coming up of the little horn. Within this time, the continued offers will be taken away. The host of the prince will be at war, 721, with the horn. They will be trampled, and the holy place will be rearranged until it's set right again. 2,300 days is theoretically multiplied to be assumed. 360 days a year, equal to a little over 6 years. It's a nice round number, but give the general ideas. At some point in time, Judah is to be thrown into a war, desolation, and profanation of the holy place. This will be even the falling of the host of some of the stars. This will last for a decreed time, for several years. Not good news. Two beasts will arise, and the second one, the goat, will sprout former dominions, which was a picture in chapter 7, 4 beasts that come from the four wings of the heaven. Out of this four, a little horn will come, will wreak havoc on the saints in their land and the sanctuary religious arrangements. This will last for several years. The sanctuary will be set right again. The word for set right is an important term, cleanse, and some translations do not capture, I believe, the meaning. The word is often translated in many other places, the justified or made righteous. Those who teach the doctrine of justification use this very term. However, here the sanctuary is desecrated. The arrangement of the items in the sanctuary is cast out. The foundation is usurped. This again implies that the temple is rebuilt. Daniel was seeing this is the third year of Belshazzar. The exile is still in force. There is no temple, no land, and no priesthood. Yet here there is, and it will be thrown down again. The only reason given is the transgression. If this saying that when Israel returns, she will once again have to undergo a major catastrophe because of sin and rebellion to God. If I were Daniel, I would be appalled. However, the temple is to be set up right again. The people of this event is appointed time. It's the beginning and end, and we shall see. I will continue as I've been doing to comment and refer back to these visions as the image of Daniel become more and more pronounced. In chapter 7, we saw 4 beasts and a little horn. Here we see 2 more beasts to precede these 4. But the little horn not only makes war with the saints, but now is shown to trample as well. Hopefully there's a jubilant outcome, and there is. The Ancient of Days will take a seat and judge the 8-horned beast, particularly the 8th horn that causes the destruction. And it was translation. And it was while I saw the vision I did Daniel that I saw an understanding, that behold, one standing before me like the appearance of a distinguished man. And I heard a voice to man in between no lie, and they called and said, Gabriel, make this one understand the appearance. The term I've used in the translation throughout, strong man or mighty man, is found in the Aramaic as is here. It is the same family of words as distinguished man in the name Gabriel, strong man of God. Thus, Thus is this court of Nebuchadnezzar and Cyrus. They had strong men of their army hosts, and Daniel himself is a strong man or mighty man. The angel Gabriel This is the first time an angel is called by name appears before Daniel. Most likely he was one of the fiery furnace and in the lion's den, and the one who was the watcher of the king's dreams. Perhaps nonetheless, these are angels look like people. They are the hosts of heaven. They are the mirrored in the hosts of dominions too. As God in the eternal dominion is army, so also dominions on earth are theirs. However, not only are angels a part of this, but also actual human beings or understand to worship the true God are included in this host. The mirror behind the actual material creation, Genesis 1, and the invisible creation, the heavens and their hosts are all fall under the dominion of God, and in the dominion of God, he rules the heavens and the earth. Typical of Daniel, he seeks further understanding of what he's just seen. In the vision, he's still on the banks of the river Ulai, where the ram was stormed against Babylon in just a few short years. This, in turn, will bring about the end of the 70 years of Babylon's power and the rise of Cyrus and the Medes. It is Cyrus whose name anointed one in Isaiah 44. It is he that gives the edict for Israel to return to her land. Daniel was seeing something here about a ram with 2 horns and a goat with 1 horn, one of which 4 horns come. One of them is treacherous disaster. The temple has been rebuilt. What is the meaning of this? So we came beside my standing place of translation. So we came beside my standing place, and while he came over, I was terrified and fell upon my face. And he said to me, understand, son of man, concerning time of the end, the visions. And while he was speaking to me, I fell asleep with my face to the land. And he struck me and set my face upon my standing place. And he said, behold, I am going to declare to you that which is the latter part of the ended nation, for it concerns an appointed time and end. Daniel is beside himself in terror. He is mere mortal, but son of man, the vision is the entire span of events with the beginning, middle, and the end. The angel is going to declare to him the latter parts of the vision, which again means that there's a beginning, a middle part first. However, he tells him of the beginning parts. The ram which you saw, owner of the horns, the king of murdered Persia. The shaggy male goat is the king, and Yavon and the great horn between the eyes is the first king, and being broken forward takes to stand in the place the kings from a nation would stand, but not in his power. But in latter part of the dominion, when the transgressions of full king of mighty faces will stand, and he's understanding dissimulations. The sameness of the 4 beasts are called 4 kings in chapter 7:17, as evidence here of the 4 kings that come out of the 4 winds of heaven, 7:2, 8:8. Now we know to some extent the identification, the persons, the Medes are already well known by Daniel, simply by being about the business of dominion of Babylon. The arrival have been already prophesied by the prophets. They are a singular dominion, the Medes and the Persians is attested to in history. Cyrus was both king of the Medes and the Persians. Several kings came after him in the dominion, until it's well known fall by the Ionians, or the Greeks. These were the people of the distant western lands, and it would be known to Daniel as well, though not as familiar as would have been with the former. Hey Jacob, I'm preparing for my debate by reading one of Dr. Sam Frost's books. I started reading it this morning with Janet, and then I started this stream. Oh, I noticed somebody is on LinkedIn here commenting. Esther, hallelujah. Thanks for the work. God bless you. God bless you too. So I'm on page 176. And I got to get to $289. The timeline we have before us spans from the Persian dominion to the Grecian one, ruled by Alexander the Great, roughly 550 to 330 BC. Daniel was seeing the vision in the year 535 or thereabouts, which means he's peering down 200 years in the future. However, Alexander's dominion that we have not given the name, Daniel seemingly sees a horn and calls him the first king. Well, I'm glad he sees it as Alexander. That's good. All right. And causing the first king, since the 4 horns come out, or as a result of the Grecian dominions, his death do not last very long, 336, 323 BCE. The Greeks battled the Persians for several years, being disrupted thorn in their side, so to speak. Finally, however, and interesting enough, Alexander marched to Susa, where the Persians fell before him, 330 BC. Alexander dies, and this left open. Yeah, he died. Got sick. I think he died at age 30. Alexander dies and is left open to famous Diadochoi successors. Diadochoi. The 4 kings in his place. These are the 4 beasts of chapter 7. And from the monster beast, 1 king eventually arises who will wreak havoc in the land of Israel. So that's Antioch Epiphanes. Daniel will have more to say about him, and the vision progresses in detail to the end of the book. Again, this last king, the eighth horn of the monster beast, arises in the latter part of the vision. The whole vision concerns the coming shaggy goat and the four horns that arise. Concentration and focus is on the last king, and this is the latter part of the vision, the latter time or end. Thus it's made clear here that the ram and the coming goat, with the breaking of its horn and formation of four horns, is the beginning of the vision. For at the latter part of the four horns dominion tells us this. The single king, the little horn, the eighth horn of the monster beast, erupts and does as he pleases in the latter part of the vision. This is why Daniel 7 and 8 spend their time they do on this part. As Daniel was concerned with the fourth beast and the little horn, so is concerned here with the little horn, who arises out of the four kings. It does every injustice to understanding Daniel not by seeing the very clear and obvious comparisons here and there, and divisions are concerned with one and the same time period. This also settles the matter that Nebuchadnezzar's dream images not at all focus here, nor are the similarities even apparent. The complete breakdown, the comparison between these two visions of Daniel and the king's dream in chapter 2 have yielded only a plethora of mind-numbing theories and special pleadings concerning with some for dominion theory or Daniel. Daniel rather sees far more than four dominions in chapter 2. Okay. He's pretty dogmatic about this part. I don't know if it affects things in the bigger picture, but we'll find out. In chapter 2, we witness a dream image and a singular collapse. This is the fall of the Babylonian dominion. During the years of Belshazzar's reign, the last king of Babylon at the time, Daniel saw four dominions, chapter 7, and then sees two more before these four dominions spring up, chapter 8. Thus, Babylon falls, and then comes Darius, Cyrus, the Mede, and the Persian. They are crushed by a shaggy goat, the Grecian Empire, from the nation, as it's called. Four kings, dominion arise, and out of one of them comes a king who absolutely wreaks destruction on the land, trampling the remnant, making war with the saints, and desecrates the holy place. There are no gaps in the future history. Daniel is being shown by the hand of God, as we must not forget that the three beasts are given a prolongation after the little horn is destroyed. Daniel was not envisioning the end of history as properly thought. As we progress indeed, as Daniel sees the unfolding of these visions, which are becoming somewhat clearer and clearer as they come, we will see this is how the book is supposed to be understood. Another aspect here is that the latter part of the king's behaviors were told that the transgressions are to be finished. Daniel was given the vision the holy place would be set right again, the righteous would come. Again, we ask, are these the transgressions of the people of Israel, the host? Are these the transgressions of the king who will arise? Translation. And he will have mighty strength, but the strength is not his. And being surpassing, he will run, and he will be made to thrive. And he will do all he will ruin mighty ones and holy people. And by his cunning also make treasury thrive in his hand. And in his heart he will become great. And in his ease he will ruin many. And upon a prince of peace will he stand, but by a cessation of hand he will be broken. This is a long list of the amazing description of this king. The vocabulary here is very important as it carried through to the end of the book. The king is described as one having been given the power to do what he does. Daniel was already taught us that is the God of the heavens that gives dominion to whoever it pleases. He strengthens and empowers them. Thus, the angel is able to even speak where known historian can. The king's heart will be lifted up in himself. The issue in terms of time is very far off. One gets the idea here that since the king's arrival is so far off, that these descriptions, many we've seen used for Nebuchadnezzar, show how God will be directing him to do what he would do. The ruinous destruction of the king has not happened. It is to happen. Whoever the king is, this is how he's going to act, simply because this is how God is going to direct him to act. What should come to mind in Daniel is that the ruinous, destructive little horn, the eighth horn of the monster beast, is being directed against the holy people. This is usually a sign that God's wrath is being poured out on his people for their transgressions. It is not a good thing here. I would have been absolutely terrified. We may also observe the language of the phrase and understand, which is used of the ram, the goat conquering it. The phrase is that of the total domination. It is not used of the four animals. Rather, they stand before the fourth monster beast and remain after the little horn is killed. The four do not attack the goat, but spring from it, with the little horn attacking the Holy Land. Like chapter 7, the other horns are not said to fall before the fourth horn. Likewise, Judea does not fall, even though it's ruined and attacked. The little horn dies. Judea survives, and the remains of the animal 712 live on. Translation. An appearance of the evening in the morning, which was said it true. Now you must shut up the vision for a concern many days. And I, Daniel, fell out and was sick for days. And I arose and I did the king's work. And I was appalled about the appearance, and there was no understanding. Exactly. He goes about the business of King Belshazzar's administration, but the vision and the one previous to it, from the appearance of vision, they are directly linked. The one interprets the other and forms the underlying theme. Judgment is coming again from the holy upon the holy people. Daniel was told to shut up or seal the vision because it concerns many days. The idea being that it's far off, even though that's not used here. Yeah, he is in the third reign of the Belshazzar, and that the ram is very near the door. Belshazzar is the last king. The ram of the vision is coming, but so were the four dominions, that so is the little horn. Chapter 9. All right, he's probably going to go really historical here. In the first year, Dariyavesh, son of Ashervesh, son of Seed of Mede, was also made king over the dominion of the Chaldeans. We have already shown the issue involving Darius. Darius is king of the Median and Persian dominion, chapter 5 and 6. Here is some added information that we know Cyrus was a Mede of his mother's side, still not be discussed. That he was called king of the Medes, and that he's consolidated the Medes and Persians into a single dominion is also well attested. Made king simply denotes, following with Daniel, that God has given him the dominion. He received the dominion 6:1. Also in the same way that the saints are to receive the dominion in 7:18. That is, possessed the dominion 7:18. 22 are given the dominion in 7:27. All carry the same connotation. Some may argue the seed come from the male, not the female. Cyrus' mother was a Mede, but his father was a Persian. However, Genesis 3:15 speaks of the woman's seed. Also 16:10, 26:40, Leviticus 12:2, Deuteronomy 28:57, Revelation 12:17 also speak of the woman's seed. Descendant. Here, however, he's defined as the son of Akasharash. Rosh, I see the chief idea, or king. All right. This is another royal title, is not a name. Ezra 4:6 uses the title for Cambyses too, son of Cyrus. Let me get an acid real quick. All right. Here, however, is defined as a son that covers a sea. Cyrus' father was also named Cambyses, and so we shouldn't find no difficulty that Daniel uses the title for his father. That is, Cyrus, son of Cambyses, is explained here as Darius, son of Ashurverush. In the scriptures, we find a few places where seemingly odd names are used. The king of Assyria is called Pul, 2 Kings 5:19, 1 Chronicles 5:26, who is also called Telagath-Pilsner. Shishak is another name for the king of Babylon, Jeremiah 25:51. Akashverosh, which is Ahasuerus, is the title for the Lion King, of which Cambyses first was considered. The first person, a part of the title, Kasha, or king, okay, from which the modern Iranian Shah, all right, has come. The uses of such titles, Artaxerxes, Xerxes, Ahasuerus, and even Darius, has caused considerable debate in the scriptures, particularly with Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther. It is a debate that I care not to enter into at this time, even though for our understanding, lengthy material can be given for support by very serious and credible scholars. Needless to say, Cyrus, who was 62 years of age, 6'1", was the son of Mede. On his maternal side, was called king of the Medes and Persians. Fits the bill. What I wish to focus on in this arrangement of the material, chapter 5 marked the end of the Babylonian dominion. It was handed over to the Medes and Persians, the ram of chapter 8. Thus, Daniel has arranged the first two visions, 7 and 8, as sandwiched between the first year of the ram in chapter 6 and chapter 9. Having been given then the fact that during the last year of Babylon, God showed him that the ram is coming. And we now are in the first year of the ram. Daniel then knows that the ram will be defeated by the shaggy male goat, the Ionians, Greek. He knows that the 70 years are up, as we shall see. He knows that a little horn is coming as well. Belshazzar is gone, and Darius the ram is in his first year. This then sees the context for understanding all that follows. By placing the first and the third year, the last ruler of Babylon, 7-1 and 8-1, in between the first year of the ram, Persia, 6-1 and 9-1, Daniel was letting us know that he's in of the fact that the first year of Cyrus, great as that is, will not last. Persia will fall to another, and 4 will arise out of that. And one ruler from those 4 will ravish the restored form from exile holy land. The first year of Persia, 6-1, followed by the last year of Babylon, 7-1, 8-1, sets the context for all that is found in chapter 9. Translation. In the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood in the scrolls the number of the years which were a word of Yahweh or Jeremiah the prophet to complete as it regards desolations of Jerusalem, 70 years. Having seen the two visions that they obviously concern the future with the 70 years have been fulfilled, completed, Daniel writing during the first year of the ram and seeking to understand the visions in terms of what the scrolls say. He turned to Jeremiah 25, 11 and 12. We read, and all this land have been for a desolation, for an astonishment, and these nations will serve this king of Babylon 70 years. And this have come to pass at the fullness of 70 years. I charge against king of Babylon and against the nations, an affirmation of Jehovah, their inquiry, and against the land of the Chaldeans, having appointed it for desolations age during. And in 25:10, for thus says Jehovah, surely as the fullness of Babylon 70 years I inspect you and have established towards you my good word to bring you back into this place. The words here in Jeremiah are found in 9:2 or Daniel, complete desolation. He's reading the scroll. The 70 years are often regarded as the amount of years of the exile, and this certainly includes their years. However, Nebuchadnezzar began to deport the Jews around 605. Babylon ended in 539. If we understand that Jeremiah's vision concerning the rise of Babylonian dominion, which was around 609, the 70 years is meant to include this as well. The nations, not just Jerusalem, will serve the king for 70 years. It is the completion of Babylon 70 years. Likewise, 2 Chronicles 36:21, to fulfill the word of the Jehovah in the mouth of Jeremiah to the land that enjoyed its Sabbaths on the days of the desolation and kept Sabbath to the fullness of the 70 years. However, as the passage relates, Nebuchadnezzar ravaged the land with at least 3 series of raids and deportations, the last being the setting of fire to the temple in 588. Then Jerusalem was desolate. Daniel hints at this when he uses the same word of desolation, but in the plural of the desolations of Jerusalem. Obviously, one cannot count 70 years from 589 and arrive at 70 years at the first year of Darius, 538 BC. In the next verse of 2 Chronicles, we read, in the first year of Cyrus king of Persia, the completion of the word of Jehovah in the mouth of Jeremiah, have Jehovah waking up the spirit of Cyrus king of Persia. The same first year we find ourselves in Daniel 9:1. There is no mistake here in that it is not rocket science to count a mere 70 years. Babylon did not rule over Jerusalem for 70 years. The first year of Cyrus is the completion of those years. However, thus, simply counting back 70 years from 539, we get 609, which is when the Babylonian dominion seriously began to rear its head under Nabopolassar and his son Nebuchadnezzar. For 70 years, God gave the dominion to his realm, and the 70 years desolation was decreed for Jerusalem by the prophets as the word desolations, decreed for the surrounding nations of Babylon. Cyrus, however, ends this. It is his first year. After seeing the events of Daniel's deliverance from the lion's pit, he is stirred up, making the decree. Ezra 1. Daniel, therefore, is writing most likely just before the decree is made. He is searching Jeremiah. Okay. Therefore, most likely before the decree is made. I think the decree, typically, my view is if 444 is the number I remember. He is searching Jeremiah. 70 years have been added up and are complete. The fact that the Babylon is no more. The fact that the new king is come, a Mede, who is also a Persian, single to Daniel, the completion of the 70 years. This meant the end of the desolations of Jerusalem as well. However, Daniel has seen two visions that have revealed other coming desolation, 8:13. And according to the prophet Jeremiah, just after the mention the 70 years completion, he wrote that upon the promise of God to restore and rebuild Jerusalem, for I have known the thoughts that I'm thinking towards you, an affirmation of Jehovah, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you a latter end in the old. Jeremiah 29:11. From this, Jeremiah launches into a beautiful description of the restoration of Judah and Israel in the terms of the new covenant. Jeremiah 31, a renewed covenant that would not be like the former covenant made with their fathers. Thus we are, and then it certainly was, at the loss to explain the glorious future and latter end for Israel, after we have just witnessed two horrible and appalling visions. Judah will be made desolate yet again. How can this be glorious future? Did Jeremiah intend to convey the message that this new covenant will begin with the return of the people to the land? And this new covenant, God will write his laws upon the heart of the people. Translation. I set my face to Adonai the God in order to seek my prayer and supplication by fasting in sackcloth and ashes. We are once reminded at the very beginning of the book where Adonai the God handed over Jehoiakim in Nebuchadnezzar's hand. This was in the first year of King Nebuchadnezzar. Having compiled the book and having an understanding of all that has happened to his people, here the prophet signals a new phase. That my Lord, Adonai, the God of the heavens, does as he pleases according to his own will. It was his will to hand over Judah. It is his pleasure to hand over Babylon. It is his pleasure to rule over the dominions of man as he sees fit, regardless as if fit is our understanding. Daniel's story's key terms of vocabulary meant to encourage the truly faithful ones, the ones who have set upon their heart upon him. These are the people the dominion is promised. These are the people who must endure through the transgressions and sins and thus punishment of those who call themselves his people, yet in fact they are not. I interceded to Yahweh my God and confessed and said, I beseech my Lord Adonai the God, the great one, the one to be feared, who is keeping the covenant and loving kindness to the one, loving him and his commandments. Acting as a priest, Daniel intercedes for his people. God is the covenant-keeping God. He keeps his covenant with those who love him from the heart, his commandments to be written on the heart. It is not the case to all who are Israel or those who fit the scripture, rather because Daniel was praying in his house before the window with face towards Jerusalem in this foreign land means that his exile was happened. Was it Daniel when his three companions of the prophets like Jeremiah and the many who truly did love the Lord with all their heart that caused Jerusalem desolation? Hardly granted the numbers were dim in comparison with the majority of the Israelites, but it was their majority and their sins that caused God's hand to move against them. And truly the vow paid for it. They suffered as a result. A beautiful and devout follower of the Lord from the heart, Daniel was exiled from his own land on their behalf, yet rather than bitterness, Daniel intercedes for them. Amazing. Translation. We have sinned, we have done wrong, we have done wickedly, and we have rebelled and turned aside from your commandments and from your judgments. Daniel identified with his people. He is, after all, one of them. Certainly, though, what strikes us here that Daniel has been praised for his integrity, not for himself, but from what is encountered in the book. Daniel did not sin, did not wrong, or act wickedly. He did not rebel and turn aside from the commandments of God. We see also a progression of sorts from sin to wrongdoing to wickedness to flat out turning aside and rebelling against what is known as commandments and judgment. This is a heart condition, and we have a contrast between a heart that is set upon itself and the Lord's commandments of those who have not done this, and the ones who have set his heart upon the Lord, even demonstrate the loving kindness of the Lord toward his enemies. He prays for them a heart so transformed by the loving God of his enemies, so acts as one who has loving kindness in his heart. God has set a regenerated covenant in his Daniel and is written in the laws in his heart, prefiguring the time when a new covenant was set aside, the former made with Moses. Daniel demonstrates that the infilling of the regenerated spirit was already at work under the former covenant. Interesting. Moses' covenant did not exclude regeneration, but placed regulations upon those under the laws of Moses. However, in Daniel's case, because of the work of the Spirit upon his heart, Daniel could thrive in covenant faithfulness to God. Apart from the regulations of the ceremonial laws, the land and the temple cultures, he could faithfully serve God from the heart in the foreign and the pagan land. Or Ezekiel said, I've been a sanctuary for them during the time of exile. Daniel is my people and God is his God. Translation. And we have not hearkened to your servants, the prophets, who have spoken in your name to our kings and princes and our fathers, to all the people of the land, to you, my Lord, the righteousness to us, shame in the face to this very day, to any man in Judah to dwell in the Jerusalem, to all Israel this near and this far in the land. You have thrust us out of here for the unfaithfulness to unfaithful to you. Okay. Daniel does switch from us to them, but designates the whole as all Israel. Exile was the ultimate form of punishment in the curses of the law. It was one thing to be besieged by the foreign invader, and quite another to be besieged, conquered, and exiled. That Daniel does not see in the visions of chapter 7 and 8, or mentions any hint of another exile under the dominions to come. And particularly the little horn is significant. The little horn makes more with the saints, but the saints are not exiled, and they are made victorious. Daniel was aware and knew of the few Israelites and Judeans who remained in Jerusalem during the exile period. Israel, the northern parts, have been scattered by Assyria, 722. Yet some of them have even remained in Jerusalem. 2 Chronicles 34 state that a remnant of Israel, Manasseh, Ephraim, etc. remained in Jerusalem after the Assyrian deportation. 34. Judah too have been scattered in like manner, yet the restoration of the house of Israel and the house of Judah occurred when the remnant returned. Many, if not more, Israelites than those from Judah actually remained throughout the regions who came to be known as the diaspora. Daniel then sees all Israel as those near and those far. Translation. Yahweh to us, shame of the face, to our kings, to our princes, to our fathers, which is sin against you, to the Lord our God, our tender mercies and abundant forgiveness, for we are rebelled against him. The last sentence turns toward the reader with the word him, God. As priest, Daniel was interceding in the very same words of Jeremiah, mainly Deuteronomy, curses to come from the Lord, and only reason is for sin and transgression. Yet appealing to the covenant, God is a forgiving God, a tender mercy. Translation. Hey, recovering. Neither have we heard Yahweh our God's voice as we walk in the laws which he set before our face by the hand of the servant, the prophets, and all Israel's passed over your laws and turned aside, and not heard your voice. To open the curse have been poured down upon us, which is written in the law of Moses. Servants of God, because we have sinned against us, so we raise his word, which is spoken against us and against our judges, who have judged us to bring us great evil, which has not been done under all the heavens, and which is done in Jerusalem. Justice is written in the law of Moses. All of this evil has come against us, and we have not pacified the fair Yahweh our God to turn from iniquities to the prudent and the true. Therefore Yahweh watch over the evil and brought it against us, for Yahweh our God is righteous concerning all the works which he does, and we have not heard his voice. Daniel, in some cases, verbatim in his concerns and laments of the prophets, particularly Jeremiah. This is a repetitive invective against the people of Israel. It is a sad tone and feel to it. There is no excuses, there is no justification. Evil has been rendered simply because of rebellion, sin, transgression, and dullness. Daniel, near his 80s, is, if not over them, in the first year. Cyrus is deeply confessing the sin of Israel as his own. He is not supposed to be in Babylon. He was supposed to grow up in the land God had promised, offering worship and praise in the temple with the priests, princes, and king with his people. Because of sin, only because of sin, this horrible thing happened. Translation. But now, my Lord, our God, who has brought your people from the land of Mitzrayim with a mighty hand and made, that's Egypt, with made in your hand in the day you sinned, we have acted wickedly, my Lord, and according to all your righteous turn, I pray your anger and your fury from your city, Jerusalem, your holy mountain, for by your sins and iniquities of fathers, Jerusalem, and your people all around us consider us a disgrace. So now hearken, our God, his prayer of your servants into my supplication, to cause your face to shine upon you, a devastated sanctuary for purpose, my Lord. Incline, my God, your ears and hear up, open your eyes and see our desolations in the city by which your name is called. For our righteousness we do cause our supplications to fall before your face, but for your great tender mercies. Intercession here involves acknowledging sin. Daniel also appeals to the very character of God and the covenant keeper who keeps the covenant when all have abandoned and broken and making it an effect. Daniel was not praying in the temple. He is prostrate before God himself as the Son of Man, 8:17. Daniel had come before the Ancient of Days. His prayers fall before the face of God before his throne. Not only his, but we emphatic here that many who serve God still from their hearts are praying. The sanctuary in the first year of Cyrus lay devastated. The city was desolate except for a very few. There was no righteousness with Daniel, and he himself can base his supplications upon. All good things come from God. Daniel appeals to God himself. The city is called by his name. Daniel knows two things here. The prophets were told that Jerusalem would be restored and rebuilt. Jeremiah and Faith used these very words. This is what the Lord says. I will restore the fortunes of Jacob's tents, and that compassion on his dwelling. The city will be rebuilt, and the ruins in the palace will stand in their proper place. Jeremiah 30:18. And it shall not be plucked up, and it shall not be destroyed any more forever. Jeremiah 31, which follows exactly the image dream in chapter 2. Second, Daniel knows that in this vision, Jerusalem, the city and the sanctuary will be devastated again. A desolation has been seen. Chapter 8, nevertheless, he prays, turn back, open your eyes. It's a prayer for restoration and realization of the promises made by Jeremiah after 70 years. If our analysis is correct, Daniel has seen that Babylon will be destroyed and the rock will be established afterwards. Cyrus the Persian comes and issues the edict to restore and rebuild. The people, not all of them, return the answers to the rock. This answers to the rock. However, Daniel has not seen that further events are taking place well after this restoration. What began as a rock must move on to growth as it becoming a mountain. This will require another blow of devastation and another desolation. Chapter 7 and 8, at the time of the end, God's faithful stars will receive a dominion of their own. 7:18. But history does not end there. Remember, the remains of the beasts are allowed to live for time, and the season has been appointed for them after the eighth or little horn is taken out. 7:11 and 12. Translation. My Lord, hear. My Lord, forgive. My Lord, incline, and do without delay. For your own sake, my God, for your name is called upon your city and on your people. Daniel appeals to the people who have the name upon them and truly love the Lord and his commandments, who have the law set upon their hearts. And it is to a people that the rock in chapter 2 refers. It will not to left another people. 2:44. God will set up a dominion where the Babylon falls as a mere rock taken out of a mountain to return from exile. The dominion, in other words, will be laid as a foundation of people's dominion. The restoration of Israel involves a new covenant establishment. Never before has Jerusalem been ransacked and made desolate. Daniel said, yet it remains as dead before the people came under the covenant with Moses, without form, void, desolate, and ravages, to be rebuilt, restored. But this covenant is not like the covenant I made with your forefathers. Jeremiah 31. It's a new thing, a new beginning, so to speak. A new people will be established, foundation laid, and the people will grow into a mountain. A time will come when they will receive dominion on earth on their own too. Daniel entreats his God not to delay. This is so because often it appears to us in our understanding that God tarries and delays. This is a time word. Daniel was pleading for God to act now. Do not delay. The implication is that God, according to our understanding, does delay. It seems like he takes his very own time to accomplish his word. And God could delay if so once. He, like king, does whatever he wills according to his pleasure. It is not as if God reneges entirely on what he promised. It is and will be accomplished. It is that we are facing two different perspectives on this matter. The way man sees it and the way God sees it. God's ways are not our ways. Jerusalem will be restored and rebuilt. The people will come back to the land. However, there's some other bits and pieces of the matter that need to happen too. And God has not revealed all of those things. He's running the entire cosmos, every bit in the piece, and every cause and causes that results in order of all things are made to work together. What may not look like something being fulfilled over here is being fulfilled over there, so as to bring about the entire fulfillment all around, working it all together. Translation. And while I continue speaking and praying and confessing my sin and the sin of my people Israel, and causing my supplication to fall before the face of Yahweh, my God, on behalf of the holy mountain of my God, while I was still laying the prayer, even the man Gabriel, when I saw in the beginning vision, being wearied and weariness struck me around the time of evening offering. Daniel was not praying in Jerusalem nor in the temple, yet his regulatory prayer life, that is 3 times a day, rotated around the temple life. This is Daniel's evening offering of prayer. One cannot help but hear the Apostle Paul in Romans 12:1. His sin offering of prayer through confession, bringing his prayers before the face of Yahweh directly in Yahweh's dwelling place. A temple above was heard. Gabriel shows up, and the Vision of the beginning, chapter 8, is directly linked. Gabriel is now going to even further elaborate on the vision to give more understanding to Daniel, which links all of the visions together. The visions and appearances cannot be given in one shot. The sheer exhaustion caused by seeing them could only be handled in intervals of time. The first vision came in Belshazzar's first year. The second came 2 years later in the third year. Then when comes to Cyrus's first year, they are, however, bits and pieces to be added together when all is said and done. Okay. Translation. And he gave understanding, and he spoke to me. This is what happened. And he said, Daniel, now I have come out to cause you to consider understanding that the beginning of your supplications the word went out, and I've come to declare it because you are precious. Now understand it. Now understand in the word and give understanding in this appearance. The first sentence is a summary of what Gabriel did. He gave understanding to Daniel about what he said. The second sentence is what he gave, commanded Daniel to understand and give understanding to his appearance of Gabriel. Gabriel himself, the appearance. The word appearance has occurred many times in Daniel. The four boards were striking in appearance, 1:4, 13, 15, and in 18:15. Daniel sees the appearance of the mighty one. He is the one to understand the appearance, 8:16. The reason the angel came to make him understand the reason for the appearance of the angel who announced the number of evenings and mornings, 8:26. Daniel was astonished at their appearance, that is the announcement of they who appeared to make the announcement, 8:27. Likewise here, Daniel was told that while he was praising, causing his supplications to fall before the face of Yahweh, his throne, Gabriel was sent out with a word from the throne. May we not see here that God hears our cries and responds to them by sending out the armies, his hosts, and angels to accomplish what we asked for, what they were done? And yet, may we not also see that it's indeed a rare thing? Hardly ever are we planted in such a way that the angel that is answered appears to us telling us this. May you not believe the scripture, however, that the one who has Daniel, we have been peering into the dominion of God, the God of heavens, for a reason. Is all for this going on. If God is the king of all the land, the heavens are therein, and does as he pleases, and none can stop what is decreed. Though we may delay, we understand delay. What possible worry can we have? Translation. 7 70s have been determined upon your people and upon your holy city in order to bring it into the transgression. If this starts getting intense, I may have to slow down, and I may have to even stop, because this part could come up in our debate. It is all right. Let's see how this goes. It is wise to take these items one at a time, since so much ink has been spilled concerning their meaning. Since we are reading the words of Gabriel, the man of the vision, chapter 8, we know first that the period of time is determined 70 periods of 7. Are these consecutive periods? Do they run concurrently? We are simply not told. The total of 1 multiple 7 times 70 is 490. However, we're not told anything concerning how these periods fall out in the terms actual time, linear successive time. Like Nebuchadnezzar 7 times, it's clear that the text, chapter 4, the 7 years is nowhere meant, but it is added by interpreters. Likewise, we must be extremely cautious here not to make any insights into this matter without first consulting the text of Daniel itself in the immediate context. Yeah, I figured he was going that direction earlier. I think this is a good place for me to stop, because I want to do more studying in with J. Parr Tanner's commentary about the time stuff, even when it's talking about Nebuchadnezzar, because that's going to tie into this stuff right here. And I also want to situate his particular view of 70-week prophecy in light of the previous scholarly views, because he doesn't give footnotes in here. And he said that in the beginning. He said, look, I've studied this stuff, but I'm not going to give footnotes. And I'll read that to y'all just so you know. This commentary is not exhaustive. There are no footnotes. There are no quotations for scholars. I do not engage in any extensive discussion on ancient Near Eastern religion or the cuneiform texts from that period. I have, and I want the reader to understand this, wade neck deep into the material for many years. I have read virtually all the important passages of the classical historical works, the great and respected commentaries, and the little ones and not so well-known ones. The arguments for the interpretation of world empires and for and against are not found in the work either. Most readers of Daniel want to immediately go to Daniel chapter 2 or 7 or 9. What I concentrate on is that there are chapters 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. These chapters, when read closely, inform us of the book as a whole. I appreciate Daniel as a literary work, and the author has strategically arranged each division and section for a purpose. Daniel interprets, I believe, itself. Although I do quote scripture outside of Daniel a bit, I even try to refrain from that as well. course, where there are overt references to the scriptures, I omit them. Jeremiah, for example. All right, so let's see where he says in another place. Here it is. I do have to add one very important disclaimer. Every reader of any Daniel commentary will immediately go to chapter 2, 7, and 9 to find out the really important parts. If you do this in my book, you will be disappointed. The commentary was deliberately written as a book. The readers will start at the first page and read each page in order until the last. As the revelation in the books are progressive, so also the material I bring it out as in the brought out in the text. In other words, if you jump right into Daniel 9, you will miss a great deal of material that leads up to that chapter. You will also miss out on the continuing matters that relate to chapter 9 and chapters 10 and 12. In short, this commentary is to be read as a whole. It is a book commentary, a commentary in the form of a novel. It is my hope that you will enjoy it, that it will challenge you. And so yeah, that's why I've read it all. I started reading, let's see, what time was it whenever I started? Let me check. I started reading today. Looks around about 8 o'clock is whenever I started reading. And I was reading with Janet. What are my thoughts on the exposition and interpretation so far? Well, he brings up some things that basically, number one, I let me start with the positive. I appreciate the fact that he's doing this as a book as a whole. You know, I've done similar things with Daniel before. I also appreciate that he's hey MMA Paradise and hey Aladdin. Janet is sleeping right now. Do I look like a Filipino? I don't think so. I'm the beast, she's the beauty. So he gives different views about certain things, and that's good because it is like, okay, I'm taking some of that for granted about, you know, the dreams and the visions, and so that will force me to go back into the good commentaries that I have and take advantage of them, because like he says, a lot of times in Daniel commentaries we usually jump to certain places, and like in Paul Tanner's book, I mainly have waded into Daniel 9. I haven't waded into those other things. Now I have another I was reading Philip Morrow's book at one time because a guy was having me go through the book, and he made a special request and gave provision for that request, and I finished all the Daniel stuff from the book, but I don't even remember where I left off. And so what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to integrate that into my debate prep. So let me see if I can find that. Okay. A critique of Morrow. I don't know how far the episodes went up. Let's try episode 10. Let's see what comes up. No, not 10. Let's try 9. Episode 3. 8. 7. That's weird. Okay, so let me share my screen and show you what I'm doing. Why in the world is all this stuff showing up? I know that that's because of that thing, but I've never seen it all. It's like glitching or something. All right, so let's we got to go back in time. We're already 6 months back. Let's see. I think we're getting close. Why is it saying episode there? I'm pretty sure I've done. Oh. So episode 2, episode 3. Did I ever do episode 4? I think what I did was I was reading the Daniel commentary separate. Let's just go back. Let me see. I don't know. But if I remember right, it was around the time that I was in the free grace class. It was before we were doing the free grace reacts. Okay, we're getting close. Dang, this is 1 year ago. It's got to be around here. Wow. Sometimes it's crazy to see where we've been. Okay, so I'm kind of confused. Surely I didn't have false memories. Don't get me wrong, I've been known to have false memories. But there's no way it goes back 2 years. I'll just scroll a little bit further. But no, I don't think so. Okay, well, so it's right around here. Aro, where are you? Is it? Did I really just start the book here? Let me see. Why is it? I guess so. Well, if that be the case, oh no, I'm lagging here. Is Logos indexing or something? Dang. I'm lagging here. All right, Morrow 4. Okay, 3. So this is the last one. Yeah, that's the chart, the different views. So where did I stop? I need to look and see which book is which. I need to close all this. See, this is showing that I went all the way to chapter 11. "70 weeks in the Great Tribulation." But it's hard to tell. Let me see if I can zoom in and see. The 70 weeks. Okay, that's the book I'm reading right here. I'm trying to see where I left off. Okay, that's Constable. All right. Seems like I got to... See, that's Daniel chapter 8. So I'm confused. My reading is all the way up to chapter 11, but I left off in this video on chapter 8. So I'm wondering if it's underneath another debate playlist that I was doing it for. Matthew 24. Matthew 25. Man. I'm pretty sure I brought back this series. This is crazy. Episode 4. I'm talking about Hebrew here. What was I talking about? Hebrew? Okay, Herod the king. How far back does that go? Period of 3.5 years. Let me just type back. Herod the king. That's way back here. I've already read all this. But where in the world is it recorded? That's crazy, man. Yeah, I've already read all this. I'm in chapter 11. I mean, let me just see if I've been highlighting. Yeah, look, I'm already right here. Ready, should I enter the answer be saved? So somewhere there's a video, another video in addition to this one. I'm going into Hebrew here. I don't know why. I guess I'm going into the details. Okay. All right, this is going further. Page 91. Okay, this is Daniel 11. But this is the wrong commentary. That's all J. Paul Tanner. Okay, this leaves off. This is all Morrow. Okay, so you see right there, I got to chapter 10 there. That means there's got to be another video. I guess I didn't keep good track. Daniel. I don't think I have anything of Daniel, really. Maybe when I was preparing for my Premill debate stuff. Let's try that. Look, guys. Episode 5. Okay, so in this one, I am using the commentary until there we go. I was right. Okay, so this is where chapter 11 is. So this is the most recent video. So if I were to pick up, I need to pick up here. The thing is, though, is that the wise shall understand is actually not Daniel 9. We've already kind of gone through that part. So I got to think about what I want to do. All right. I probably will bring this series back and integrate it with what I'm doing here. I think that's probably the best idea to do. Yeah, I think I'll do that. I got to do some planning about that, but I think that's what I'll do. That helps streamline a lot of things. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone, or maybe even 3. All right, guys. Well, thank y'all. I may be live later on. I don't know. I got to take care of some things, but and like I said, I got to go to church later on. But y'all have a good day. God bless. Check out more content, old stuff and new. You already saw all the stuff that we've done over the years, and that was just going back 2 years back. And keep going back down a rabbit hole if you want. But God bless, guys.